It's just getting worse and worse. You saw my thumbnail. Oh gosh, we are day 2 of Trooper Proctor's cross-examination. They're on a lunch break right now, and I'm not going to start at the very beginning. We're going to kind of work in interesting pieces. I'm going to go towards the end where before they ended before break, because I thought that was interesting. And then as the court does their break, I will, I don't know, we'll move around in Proctor's testimony today. But oh my God, it ended on a very, very spicy note. I think where defense is getting at is, Mr. Proctor, were you watching other people's testimonies? Were you reviewing footages of your own testimony, or what's going on here? So they're on a lunch break, and oh God, what a crazy cross-examination. It truly does get worse and worse and worse as we are finding out more information, you know, which is not good because he's a lead detective. This is a very high-profile case. There's been a lot of allegations, you know, going left and right about who may have been done it, who is involved, who, if there's a cover up and all that stuff. And it's just not like it's just not a clean case. It's just it's just a huge mess. Hi, Taxi. How are you doing today? I hope you guys had a good weekend. Oh my God. So wild. Hi, Fire. How are you doing today? All right. So this is where they braked. Oh gosh. Okay, so I think they're talking about the Sally Port video, and then Proctor's like, no, I've seen the Sally Port video, and the one that I saw, it was the correct orientation, except the timestamp was flipped. And we're like, huh? Excuse me? We're a little bit confused about that, because the one that Mr. Lally was showing to, you know, Buchanan, it was a flipped video of the Sally Port, and people were noticing that because number 4 was flipped. There was the word police on the vehicle right there that was flipped, and I think the fence was the one that flipped the video and then showed it to Buchanan in cross-examination. So we don't know, maybe the video was originally the right orientation, but the timestamp was flipped, and that's what Proctor saw, and then someone flipped it later on somehow somewhere, and that was what was presented in the case or in the trial. I don't know, man. It's so wild. I watched the entire thing. I've already seen the cross-examination. I watched it in 2 times speed, and dude, there were some parts where I was laughing, okay? There were some crazy parts in here.
My mailbox.
Oh boy.
Did I take my gun and then included a wince face?
Oh, we'll get to this part. Let me duplicate this, okay? Him and his non-existent relationship with Kevin Albert and the Albert family, Brian Albert, Colin Albert, Julie Albert. Oh my goodness. Oh boy.
Stamp jumped from 508.
I think my my thoughts about Proctor, I think he's kind of dumb. I think he's a bit not the smartest guy. Not even just a bit. He's a lot of it. Not really the smartest guy.
Aware that the defense presented a piece of evidence?
Objection.
This is the part where they talked about the Sally Port.
Thank you. Were you aware that the defense
Let me find it real quick.
where we inverted the video back to the correct?
No, it's not.
And that rear area of the SUV after it's pulled in.
All right, we're right around here. Right around here. Sally Port video. We're right around here. Oh God, crazy. And then we'll be caught up with the. We'll do the live. We'll caught up with the right time with when the court starts today. Hello, Chantal Big Vaughn. Hello, how's it going? I'm sure a lot of people were
was
yelling.
In that separate proceeding in February of 2024.
In this
Is that right?
cross-examination.
Yes.
You were questioned about it, and you knew you were under oath at the time, correct?
Correct.
And that's when you disclosed, yes, there is Sally Port footage, and I've seen it.
The video I was referencing was the exterior Sally Port camera where you can't make out anything.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. The exterior, you said. Exterior, outside.
Correct.
Meaning the one of the driveway.
Right.
And you.
So as far as I'm concerned, there are 3 footages of the Sally Port video. There's one of the exterior where it's the outside of it. You can see the tow truck pulling up. You can see the snow and stuff like that. The other video is the one that we saw that was inverted. The one with the motion activated. Looks like people are appearing out of nowhere. There are ghosts. It's like kind of jumping around a little bit. And then there was actually another video where you could see the back of Karen Reed's car. However, that video was so screwed up. I don't know what happened to it, but it was like all black and you can kind of see outlines. I don't know if there were some wiring issues or what, but that video was very screwed up. Those are the 3 that I know about. Who's Sally Port? Too many names in this case. I can't tell if you're joking or not, but Sally Port is the name of where they keep the cars. It's basically like a little garage at the police department, but they call it the Sally Port. And that's new for me too. I've never heard of Sally Port before.
So you can't make anything out now?
There's 2 different ones. There's the main driveway camera, and then there's an exterior Sally Port camera.
You were asked about this set of videos at that other hearing, right?
It's all good. I just wanted to explain because, you know, there were things in this, there were terms in this case that I wasn't used to. Johnny's, for example, a name for the gown that they wear when you're a patient, right, at the hospital. I didn't know they were called Johnny's. I don't know if it's like a Massachusetts thing or East Coast thing or what. But Sallyport, Johnny's, waffle, never heard of as well, and some other terms.
Yes.
And you indicated at the time that there was one grainy video, which sort of mainly black and grainy.
Yes.
And another one that showed you and Sergeant Buchanan arriving at Canton PD behind Miss Reed's vehicle on the tow truck. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
You were asked very specifically, are you aware whether there are any cameras in the garage in the Sallyport where Karen Reed's SUV was parked? And the answer was yes.
Whatever insights he had
in the garage
into his review of those videos. Otherwise,
Oh, wait. They took a very short lunch
I don't
break.
recall.
Do you recall being asked that question?
No.
I can repeat it if you wish.
Yeah, please.
Question. Are you aware of whether there are any cameras in the garage or Sallyport where Karen Reed's SUV was parked? Answer. Yes.
Okay.
And then you answered, have you reviewed the video footage of that garage? Answer. I saw one very grainy video, and then another of Sergeant Buchanan and I arriving in the main entrance around 5:30 following the vehicle.
To be fair, they all look grainy to me.
Period. You remember that answer?
Yes.
That clearly was an answer to the question, did you see video of the interior of the garage?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
Were you answering a question about video inside the garage?
No, I was answering the question about what video I observed, and it was exterior video that I observed.
Although the answer to the question was cameras in the garage or Sallyport. That's the question.
If I was aware of any.
And your answer was yes. And then the next question is, have you reviewed the footage? And your answer was, I saw one very grainy video, and then another, Sergeant Buchanan and I arriving in the main entrance around 5:30 following the vehicle. Right? That was your testimony.
Yeah, those two videos I'm referring to in the exterior of the building.
Question, when did you watch the video from the Sallyport? Answer, I haven't reviewed it, sir, in quite some time, so I can't recall what's on there. End quote. You remember
ICMB.
that?
Yes.
So obviously at the time, in February of 2024, you had that video surveillance, you had that footage for so long that you couldn't remember exactly what was on it because it had been, quote, quite some time.
We
Right?
was there.
The
We was
exterior
there.
Sallyport camera.
Except you weren't asked about the exterior. You were asked, question, when did you watch the video from the Sallyport? Right? That was the question.
Well, that was the video we had, so that was how I referenced it. There was this exterior Sallyport video.
Why didn't you say to the person that was questioning you under oath, I don't know anything about video inside the Sallyport. I'm referring to outside the building. Why didn't you say that?
The caption says salad port.
And clarify.
Ignore.
I should have clarified, sir.
Because you'll agree, it sounds a hell of a lot like, an awful lot like, you're talking about what's inside the Sallyport, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
The next question you were asked, why did you review the video of the Sallyport? Answer, we review every video we pull, and we pull a lot of video. End quote. Do you remember that?
I do.
Not one word in that testimony. Not one word says exterior. Does it?
No, it does not.
You testified that you had obtained and reviewed the Sallyport garage video so long ago that you literally couldn't even remember what was on it, right?
Correct.
You did know, however, that if you had video at the Sallyport, it would clearly show that Miss Reed's vehicle arrived at 5:30, 5:31. Right? You knew that, correct?
Yes, from the driveway camera.
But you withheld that video out of 360 odd videos that you turned over. You withheld that one and never mentioned it until February of 2024, correct?
Objection.
Is that true?
I'm not aware of that, withholding that.
On April 4th, 2024, it's getting
Almost
late.
there.
On April 4th, 2024, you turned over one video from the interior of the Sallyport garage, correct?
Yes, sir.
The interior, not the exterior, right?
Correct.
And that, remarkably enough, was a grainy video, right?
Yes.
And that video is missing the precise time that that vehicle was delivered to the Sallyport, correct?
Objection.
Was it?
Because remember, the defense was, I mean, we've heard it throughout the trial that people were saying they don't have footage of when Karen Reed's car arrived at the port. There's footage of like everything else happening in the Sallyport, but no footage of Karen Reed's car in there. There was like a chunk missing, blah, blah, blah. It sounded really weird. But then lo and behold, we saw Karen Reed's car arrive at the Sallyport. And then people were saying they're like, oh, the defense didn't get that. So we're getting there.
Is it? No, allow it.
I don't recall.
It's missing 42 minutes at the beginning, and it jumps from 5:08 p.m. to 5:50 p.m., correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you reviewed the video?
Yes.
Did you see that the timestamp jumps from 5:08 to 5:50?
Objection.
Sustained.
You want to house?
I'll see it sidebar if you want.
Okay.
All right, Sabah, real quick.
That the time jumps from 5:08 to about 5:50 at the beginning of the video.
Yeah, I observed a jump in video.
And that was about 42 minutes, correct?
Approximately, yes.
You're aware that there's another video from the interior of that Sallyport as well, correct?
Yes.
And you're also aware that by the way, did you secure that video, the second one? Let me ask you a predicate question, because it's a little confusing. The second video from the interior of the Sally Port is inverted, correct?
Yes,
You're now aware of that.
I am.
Did you recover that video?
I did not.
Who did?
I believe Detective Lieutenant Tully received that from the Canton Police Chief.
Rafferty?
I believe so.
Who asked for it?
I'm not sure, sir. That
Did
was,
you make the request?
I did not.
How did you become aware that a request had been made?
I was made aware that the video had essentially existed from the interior Sallyport area.
By whom?
I was probably informed by Detective Lieutenant Tully.
So Lieutenant Tully tells you that a second video exists, correct?
Interior Sallyport cameras, yes.
When did he tell you that?
I don't recall.
Was it weeks ago or years ago?
That was more recent than, maybe months ago, a month ago.
Matter of fact, it was after the trial had already started, mid-April, correct?
I don't recall. I thought it was before.
If it was before, was it weeks before, days before?
I don't recall.
I'm just trying to pin down, are we talking about 6 months ago or are we talking about 6 weeks ago?
It wasn't 6 months ago.
Okay, so a few weeks ago, you were told about the second video from Lieutenant Tully, right?
And I think the second video is the inverted video.
Yes.
Did he tell you he had already seen it?
I'm sure he watched it.
Did he tell you he needed you to go get it?
Yes.
I'll allow that.
No.
Okay, so when was the first time you saw it?
2 weeks ago? A month ago?
What were the circumstances in which you saw that video?
Just reviewing the video
Where?
at my desk.
So you pulled it, pardon me, you had access to the video. It
Yes.
was on your system somehow.
It was on thumb drives and a disk.
You put that in your computer and just decided on your own to watch it, correct?
Yes.
And what did you notice?
One of the SUV being brought into the garage.
You're in the video, right? That's you toward the back of the truck.
Yep, I'm in the video. Some Canton PD members there as well. Tow truck guy drops the vehicle off. He's in the front driver's seat. Exits. Sergeant Mechanic's there. I believe Chief Berkowitz, the retired police chief.
Where was he?
He was kind of like mulling around the area. I feel like he was towards like the back open garage gate there.
The back
Towards like the rear. Yeah.
Where you were.
Yes.
Was he the person, did you note that there were certain individuals that just seemed to apparate out of nowhere, just appear?
Yes, there was one individual in like the top left corner of the video pushing a broom that kind of just appeared.
And also toward the back of the vehicle, somebody just, while you were at the back of the vehicle, just sort of appeared and walked down the sidewalk, correct?
Yes.
And was that Chief Berkowitz?
Yeah, it looks like him, yes.
Okay. So you and Chief Berkowitz are both toward the rear of the vehicle. He just apparates out of thin air because the video is missing some footage, correct?
It appears that way.
And you're
Or it
holding
skips.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Or it skips. I don't know that system at all. So
Okay. And you're holding what appears to be that same black portfolio that we saw in the hospital.
yes.
So, anything else you noticed that was odd about the video? Other than the time skips?
Was it inverted?
So the timestamp on the bottom was inverse. Was it reversed?
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, the timestamp on the.
He said, I beg your pardon. Oh my goodness. So when we saw the timestamp, it was really hard to see. It was in blue, very hard to see because it was at the very bottom and it was like blending with like the dark background, whatever, right? The timestamp was correct, but the video was inverted. And we were just like, how the fuck did this happen? But he's saying that, oh, the timestamp was correct, but the timestamp was inverted, but the video was correct. Like, who the hell inverted this video and when did that happen?
On the bottom of it was kind of backwards.
Was it blue?
So instead of reading left to right, it was right to left.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Was it blue?
believe it was yellow.
I wanted to dig into more into that Auntie Bev thing. I know that they were trying to figure out whether or not there was like a Venmo transaction between Judge Beverly and someone in the Albert family. It was like some sort of like, I don't know, like beach house Venmo thing or something like that. But it wasn't actually her. It was like a different Beverly or spelled differently or something like that. But someone did refer to her as Aunt Beverly, and I don't remember who it was.
Just moving on.
Yes.
So the video you saw had a timestamp that was inverted, correct?
Yes.
How about the video itself? Is that inverted?
Jackson's like, huh, kind of confused here.
No, from the video I saw, the way the vehicle was brought in relation to the garage and the doors into the PD, it wasn't reversed or inverted.
It was or was not?
It was not.
So as you saw the video, the portion of the vehicle that purported to be the passenger side was in fact the passenger side, and the vehicle,
Jackson's like trying to figure out what's happening as he's doing his cross-examination.
the side of the vehicle that purported to be the driver's side, was in fact the driver's side.
Yes, so I reviewed video yesterday just to rewatch it, and the one that I watched had the correct angle. It wasn't reversed. The car was brought in. Tow truck driver gets out. From the driver's side, it wasn't reversed. The only thing reversed on it was like the timestamp on the bottom.
And that's the part where I think Jackson's going to dig after him after the lunch break. It's like, wait a second. You saw the correct orientation. Did someone flip it for you? Or did you watch the defense's version? Did you watch, what did you watch? The testimony?
Well, were you watching video that was produced in this trial?
Yes.
So were you aware that the defense presented a piece of evidence?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. Were you aware that the defense presented a piece of evidence where we inverted the video back to the correct,
No, it's not.
and that timestamp was inverted?
I was not aware of that.
When did you watch that that video?
Just the other day, I was reviewing it.
I wonder if Lolly realized it was like, well, I don't know. Are you allowed to do that in mid-testimony? Like, oh, hey, by the way, this is the real video. The one that you've been watching was fucked or something.
Mr. Jackson, we'll take our luncheon break.
Okay, thank you.
Or the one that you were watching was correct. Here is... Wait, no. No, he said that the one that he watched 2 weeks ago was the correct orientation. It was only the timestamp was inverted. Okay, so this is after the little lunch break. Oh gosh. Is it possible the computer that played the video for the court was flipped? I mean, it seems like it was flipped. We just don't know when it was flipped.
All right, Mr. Jackson, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Proctor, before we broke, we were discussing Sally Port video that you watched several weeks ago. I want to make sure I'm clear about this. You indicated that the video that you watched was proper in terms of orientation, but the timestamp on the bottom had been inverted, correct?
Yes, that's the way it appeared.
And you recall that being a yellow chyron underneath.
To the best of,
In other words, the font color.
to the best of my memory, yes.
Which of the Canton Police Department videos were you responsible for retrieving, if any?
I did not retrieve any of them.
So what I'm trying to ask is, and maybe I'm doing it inartfully, how did those Sally Port videos end up in the possession of the Commonwealth? What was the line of succession?
Detective Lieutenant Tully retrieved the Sally Port videos, I believe.
And do you know from whom he retrieved those Sally Port videos?
I believe it
Individually.
was the chief of police.
Okay, Chief Rafferty specifically gave him whatever videos were provided.
Correct, that's my understanding.
And then he provided those to you for your review.
Yes.
I want to stay on the subject of videos for a second, but shift gears to the Ring video footage. You've already testified that there were several hundred Ring videos from One Meadows, from both the facing the driveway and front door camera, correct?
Yes.
As the case officer, you obtained and controlled those Ring videos from One Meadows from the moment that they came into Massachusetts State Police custody until they were handed over to the Commonwealth, correct?
Yes, they were archived.
You drafted the search warrant for the Ring video access records, correct?
I did.
You obtained the warrant returns once those search warrants were executed, correct?
I did.
You took possession of Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone, physically, correct?
Yes.
And you had access to Mr. O'Keefe's Ring account in that cell phone, is that right?
Correct.
You indicated that you reviewed several of the videos on his Ring app, on his cell phone, is that right?
Yes.
So you obviously had not only possession of his cell phone, you had possession of his login account information to get into the app on his.
What about the family computer? I think it was mentioned that you could also log into the Ring app on the family computer. Hey, thank you so much. Hi, Sarah. How are you doing today? Yes, happy Wednesday. It's my pajamas. I'm wearing pajamas right now.
Cell phone, is that right?
I don't believe we had the password. We had his email account associated with the Ring.
Which means
app.
some
So
way or another, you could get access to the Ring videos.
Correct.
And watch those Ring videos on his app, on the phone.
Yes.
Which means you had full access to the app. You could keep videos, you could save for later, you could delete videos, you could do anything you wanted to within that app, correct?
Yes, those are the capabilities within that app.
Trooper Proctor, did you delete any of the Ring videos ever from John O'Keefe's phone?
Oh, I knew he was going to
Absolutely
go
not.
there.
Did you delete a video of Ms. Reed arriving to One Meadows at approximately 12:41 a.m. on January 29th, 2022?
Absolutely not.
You will agree, Trooper Proctor, that the video of Ms. Reed returning home from 34 Fairview at approximately 12:41 a.m. is not there.
Correct.
As the case officer, you're aware that Trooper DeChico also reviewed some or all of those videos, correct?
Yes.
And he did that at your request.
Correct.
He took notes of his review of those videos, correct?
Yes.
And then he provided those notes to you so that you could then memorialize those notes and your notes in a broader report that you then drafted in November of 2022, correct?
From memory serves me, the report I wrote regarding the Ring camera was based off my observations of the videos that I had watched.
But you certainly did have, as you just indicated, you did accumulate his notes and review his notes as well as your own notes, correct?
That's my recollection. I wrote.
You heard Reed had access to the Ring camera software. Is that true? I read that in Lolly's motion that one of the children, or I think one of the children testified that she might have access to like the family computer. I don't know if the Ring was on there.
That report off of my notes.
Did you actually, at any point before
I
writing
didn't get to listen to the children's testimony because they didn't air that. But yeah, I don't know.
your report, did you note or did you review his notes?
I can't recall.
You asked him, he reviewed the videos at your directions, correct? At
Yes.
your direction, correct?
Yes.
And obviously he would have wanted to provide you whatever insights he had into his review of those videos. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Correct.
So when you reviewed his notes, did you see that they were on some sticky pads? You remember that?
That sounds all right.
The sticky pads. What are on the sticky pads?
One or more of those sticky pads that you reviewed from Trooper DeChico.
I don't know.
Would it refresh your recollection if you would take a look at a copy of those notes?
Yes.
And the uppermost top note that's highlighted with a sticky note next to it.
What do the sticky notes say?
Okay, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Coach. Yes. Super Proctor, do you have these notes in mind, specifically the uppermost note?
The 0041?
Correct.
Yes.
All right. You reviewed this previously before you wrote your report, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you note that at 0041, which is a time relative to what DeChico was looking at on the Ring video, he indicated taillights from driveway, parentheses, I think she arrived home, in parentheses, correct?
Correct.
0041 is what? Is that in reference to?
Just after midnight, the approximate time where Miss Reed will be returning from Fairview Road.
It's military time for 12:41 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Wait, are we going to hear from DeChico? These are DeChico's sticky notes. I'm assuming they went over the Ring footage. Did he notate when Karen Reed arrived home and there was footage of that? Wait, what?
You wrote a report on November, I earlier said November,
Do I have to
actually
go
June
back?
1, 2022, memorializing the times that were of note to you in that Ring footage, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall every single entry that you made concerning the events that were of note to you that were reflected in your report?
The majority of them. Every single one.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at a copy of your report to determine what all you did and did not note?
Yes, sir.
Fair approach?
Sure. Do you have it with you, Trooper? Do you have your report with you?
Don't you want to
I'd ask you to review that report, especially as to page 2 and 3. Thank you. First, 2022, correct?
Correct.
Fine.
I do.
Your report is dated June 1st, 2022, correct?
Correct.
And reflected in this report are the bullet points of the times that you found of some note in your review
I
of
thought he said November 2022. Now we're in June of 2022.
all of the Ring footage from One Meadows, correct?
Yes.
In your report, there's no mention of the footage showing Karen Reed arriving home at 12:41 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And that's notwithstanding the fact that in Trooper DeChico's report, in his handwritten notes, he makes note of an event at 12:41 a.m., indicating, I think she arrived home, correct?
Correct.
Wait, why would DeChico write that if he didn't delete it? Wait. We got to hear from DeChico.
So sometime between when Trooper DeChico wrote his notes and when you wrote your report, that video footage vanished, correct?
There's also no date on Trooper DeChico's notes. We have many dates from Ring video, so I don't know if he's referencing a different date.
Well, you're aware that the video footage from 12:41 a.m. is gone, correct?
Yes, it's something I've tried to find through Ring for months, as well as the video when Miss Roberts, Miss McCabe, Miss Reed arrived back at John's and they're looking at the broken taillight. That video is gone as well.
So at some point, while this footage was in Massachusetts State Police custody and being reviewed by Trooper DeChico, that video existed, didn't it?
Objection.
The objection is sustained. Mr. Jackson, don't wait.
Got to hear from DeChico.
Yes, sir. The fact is, notwithstanding Trooper DeChico's handwritten notes, there's no video of 12:41 on January 29th, is there?
No, there isn't.
Proctor says there's no date.
Trooper Proctor, would you agree that from the very beginning of your investigation, you treated Karen Reed very differently than you treated the Alberts and McCabe's in this case?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Was she treated differently?
Absolutely not. Like I said before, we followed the facts and the evidence, an open mind.
Did you consider her to be,
Oh, I think we're wrapping up.
for want of a
No, wait,
better
no. Jackson said it was another 30 to 40 minutes.
phrase, an outsider?
No, not at all.
Not somebody from Canton,
No, not at all.
not family, not friends with the Alberts.
Absolutely not.
At some point, your view of this case caused you to turn what could be described as a bias into an out-and-out hatred. Would you agree with that?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you develop some sort of hatred for Ms. Reed at
Objection.
any point in your investigation?
I'll allow it.
Again, we followed the facts and the evidence which showed Miss Reed hit Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. And yes, at times I got emotional because of that. And I said some stuff, texted some things I shouldn't have, but it was based off the evidence.
As a matter of fact, you did express your feelings about Ms. Reed in yet another text message that we haven't gone over today. Is that right?
Oh, God, there's more?
2022?
More text messages. Thought we were done with
All right, we'll turn to
those.
tab 10.
Tab 10?
It's either the bait stamp or the.
This is triple F, this is Foxtrot. And base stamp is 2526.
Yes, sir.
Do you see an entry from Courtney Proctor, a text, starting, I didn't give my.
Yes.
Request permission to publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
2526, please. Texted in relation to some sort of donation that she had given. I didn't give my name as I didn't want anyone to link me to Michael, meaning you, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Okay, take that down.
Well, now that it's up, I'm going to read it, right? I didn't give my name as I didn't want anyone to link me to Michael. Whatever you know must be bad because some people just say it was bad, drunken tragedy. Let's hope she does so she doesn't drag this out for this family. February 4th, 2022. Screen grabbing. I'm taking a screenshot of this. It's already up on the screen. I know. What are they talking about? I need more context. All right, they're doing their sad ba.
Are unmuted.
What's up with the text? Are we going to continue forward
Yes.
or no?
You see the text from Courtney Proctor. I did not give my name as I didn't want anyone to link me.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's stricken. That's what was objected to. Just this one, or the
Oh.
whole page goes in.
You responded to a text message from your sister, correct? And your response was, hopefully she kills herself, correct?
Yes.
Who's she?
The defendant.
Miss Reed?
Correct.
You literally said that you hope that Karen Reed, the subject of your investigation, the woman sitting to my left about 7 feet from me, that she would just die, correct?
The figure of speech.
I wonder if Jackson was trying to be a little bit sneaky there by like getting that part in again. And then judge's like, no, we don't allow that. We didn't allow that. We didn't sidebar. What do you mean Corgi evil laugh? There's nothing evil about the laugh.
You wanted her, the figure of speech is you wanted her to kill herself.
No.
Right?
No, it's not.
Trooper Proctor, Karen Reed, in your investigation, had quickly become a very serious problem for you, hadn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you believe that Karen Reed was a problem or an issue for your investigation?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, absolutely not.
In your words, quote, all the powers that be want answers ASAP. That's what you texted on January 29th, right?
Yes.
That put a lot of pressure on you, didn't it, Trooper Proctor?
There's a lot of pressure in every case, sir.
This case
Absolutely not.
had quickly become a very serious problem for you, hadn't she?
Sorry, February 29th.
No, absolutely not.
In your words, quote, all the powers that be want answers ASAP. That's what you texted on January 29th, right?
Yes.
That put a lot of pressure on you, didn't it, Trooper Proctor?
There's a lot of pressure in every case, sir.
This case involves a Boston cop whose family you were actually connected to, correct?
Loosely.
Chris Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Julie Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Colin Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Kevin Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Loose enough to leave his badge and his gun in your cruiser after a night of drinking, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
Yeah, the issue that I do have with because at first I was like, okay, it's his sisters his sister that's connected with, the Albert family, but it's like he's best friends with his sister. His sister's best friends with, people in the Albert family. Not only that, I think it was in the federal grand jury. They asked him if, he had any relationship with the Albert McCabe's, and he said no. But we find out that Julie, babysat, or he texted Julie Albert 2 weeks before to babysat like his kid or niece, or I think it was his kid, right? Yeah, to babysat his kid, I think. That's that's kind of personal. You know, sometimes you hire babysitters, you don't know them very well, but still they're babysitting your kid, right? And I think the kid was probably, 2 years old at the time? I'm assuming because he has a 2 and a 4-year-old. So I'm assuming it was a 4-year-old, was 2 at the time. And if someone's watching your 2-year-old, you would kind of want to know who they are. You don't want to just get some random ass stranger to watch your kid. And then not only that, also Kevin Albert. I mean, Kevin Albert, you know, also works in law enforcement. They had a cold case that they worked together. They came back, they went drinking. Kevin Albert texted the next morning, was like, oh, did I leave my badge, my gun in your car? I don't know where it is. He was hungover. I mean, like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, you may not consider yourself close to these people, but these are still things that you would still want to disclose, right? So if someone asked you, like, you know, for those of you guys who have siblings out there, someone asked you like, oh, hey, are you close with the Albert family? It's like, oh, I'm personally, no, not really, but my sister's best friends with them. Wouldn't you say that? Or wouldn't you just say that like, oh, you know, I have worked in a case with Kevin Albert. Yes, you know, we had drinks before, just to be very transparent, because you don't want it to bite your ass years later down the road, or months later, or weeks later, or whenever, right? Especially when you're working on a case like this, and especially when you have to testify and they're going to fucking grill you on cross-examination. You want to make sure you're squeaky fucking clean. I'm just, that's why I just think this guy is just maybe just not very smart, because he's like, oh, I don't have a relationship with them. But it's like, I mean, you should still disclose these things. What is this case about? It's supposed to be about how this woman who has, you know, is on trial right now, how she hit her boyfriend, left the scene, left him to die, whatever. But we're in day 23. That part is very fucking iffy. What it's really about is how bad, you know, the investigation was, how there's potentially maybe other people involved, maybe not other people involved. It's going back and forth between that. I mean, I feel like the main quest is just being lost in all these side quests. And we're in day 23. You know, we got couple more weeks left of trial, maybe like 2 more weeks left, maybe 3 more weeks left. Like,
You agreed in your group chat that you needed to, quote, make this cut and dry because another cop was involved. Those are your words, right?
Objection.
Where is this?
This was referred to in earlier text messages, group chats.
So is that right? Did you say that, sir?
I did text that. I don't know if it's in the exact context. But yes, those were my words.
Group chat.
Yes, that was in the group chat.
I think he's too dumb to be in a conspiracy.
Your friends wrote this whole thing in their words.
She seems like the type of person who would be mouthing off to everyone about anything and everything. I'm sure it would be in the group messages and shit if it was, you know? I just don't think he's just smart enough, you know? What I was entertaining, like, okay, like, let's say that it was the Albert family or someone in the Albert family was involved, and they just also happened to get lucky because they have this dumb nut being the lead investigator. You know, I was thinking maybe that could happen. The Albert Collin theory and all that stuff, I'm still kind of like, about it. But for sure, him being the lead investigator, I mean, that, I don't know how the jury is going to find him credible for anything. And I don't know how they won't have an issue with him being lead investigator. And then, I don't know, especially with Lolly as the prosecutor. What a mess. It's a mess.
Stinks, correct?
Yes, I interpret that as a joke.
You believed, Trooper Proctor, that your life would be much easier if Karen Reed was just dead, didn't you?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No. Like I said, it was a figure of speech. My emotions got the best of me based on, you know, the fact that Miss Reed hit Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle and left him to die on the side of the road. So my emotions got the best of me with that figure of speech.
Also, what other cases is he on right now? Is he on any other like high profile cases? Because I wonder if they can refer to this shit and be like, so Trooper Proctor, you're also on another high profile case, Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, you know? Yeah, so like how can we really trust your investigative efforts in this case if you were such shit in the other case? I don't know if they can bring it up like that, but you heard that he is? I don't know. I don't know if he is or not. What other cases is he working on? I don't know. A lot of side eyes. You know, honestly, maybe he should find a different profession or something. I just can't imagine anything that he touches going forward. Just sounds like it's just going to be shit. You know how sometimes you fuck up so royally bad that you're given more chances and, you know, hopefully you can learn from your mistakes. But this is just so bad. And, you know, it's documented as being live streamed that I don't know if anyone could really trust this guy. And again, it's like, you know, in Canton, I don't know, local area. I don't know. I'm trying to think, what else can he do?
Talk
Maybe
about
he can be a
figures of
firefighter
speech.
or something.
During the course of your investigation, your figures of speech include the following.
I don't know if I would trust him with that. Hi,
She's a
Christine.
bitch.
Objection.
Right? Is that right?
Yes.
A whack job, correct?
Yes.
A retard, right?
Yes.
Her balloon knot release, right?
Yes.
No ass.
Oh God, the transcripts for this one. YouTube's gonna be like, what now? What's going on over here?
Correct?
Yes.
She's fucked, according to you, right?
Yes.
Ass leaker. That was the word you used, a figure of speech, right?
Correct.
A girl who shits herself, right?
Correct.
And then fuck her, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree, Trooper Proctor, that you have dehumanized Karen Reed during the course of your investigation with comments and words like this?
Objection.
I'll give you the
Hi, Chunky. How are you doing today? These were his text messages, not just with his friends. I was like, okay, they're like childhood friends, you know, whatever. But some of these text messages were also within law enforcement, with his two superiors in the group chat. Yeah, it looks bad.
this one, Mr. Jackson.
Would you agree with that?
I'd say based off that language, yes.
And you admitted, in your own words, that the cop homeowner wasn't going to, quote, catch any shit, right?
Correct.
Because you were out to quote, make this cut and dry. Isn't that right?
The homeowner was going to catch any shit because Mr. Elder had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death.
Because you were going to make sure that the case was cut and dry. Those were your words, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
And Trooper Proctor, it would
Taxi.
be far easier for you to pin it on the girl who's just a whack job cunt, in your words, who you hope just kills herself, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
Shame on you, sir.
Oh, I knew he was gonna end like that. Oh man, dude, he was having a field day with this guy. So apparently, I watched a news coverage about how the jury reacted when they heard / saw these text messages. It's my understanding that the jury makeup is mostly women. I forgot what the age range they said, but I'll pull it up so we can listen to that.
Objection.
All right,
me
so
go through my
jurors,
history.
disregard that. I've told you before, lawyers can't make comments. They can ask questions. And Mr.
We like the comments.
Jackson, you know better than that.
That's all I have.
Mr. Lally?
Jason's like, I'm just gonna get away with it.
Thank you.
Oh man, Lolly, how you gonna clean this shit up, Mr. Lolly? Mr. Lolly already looking like he doesn't want to deal with this shit. He's like, oh, okay, all right, let me get my paper. Let me just get my shit up there. Lolly, Lolly already blushing. 10 women out of 12 jurors. Let me go through my history really quick. We can listen to it. Jesus.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
You guys want to listen to it real quick? Hold on. It's pretty quick.
The woman.
Involved offensive and topics referring to Karen Reed in an inappropriate way. Comments even Proctor admits were unprofessional. We're joined now by Sue O'Connell, who was in the courtroom today and can kind of provide some context for us.
Because what I think a lot of us want to know is how did the judge kept asking Proctor to speak up. We could barely hear him. So some.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know what. Okay. On top of all the fuck shit that's been happening in this courtroom, there's also issues with hearing. There are people in the courtroom that can't hear what the witness is saying when they're testifying. That's a huge fucking issue. And it's not just people in the back of the courtroom. It's some people in the jury. That's such an issue. What the heck is going on here? And this is not. Is this the first time this courtroom has had a trial or something? I know the AC unit's really loud, but like, can they get some AV people to boost up the audio, the microphone, so everyone can hear? Like, what is going on here? These are things that they can solve. Why are they not doing it? Can you imagine being a jury and you could barely hear what the witness is saying at some point?
Some of these words weren't getting by. All the jurors were leaning forward, trying to hear him and trying to understand what that was saying. But it all came into very sharp focus, obviously, when Alan Jackson got up and started repeating the things and having him read the things that maybe people missed the first time.
Yeah, because, you know, with Lolly and him, when they were talking about the text messages, I wouldn't be surprised if their voice was a little bit lower because, you know, maybe we don't want the jury to hear this part. But, oh, man, when Jackson went up there, his voice was booming through the courtroom, I bet. And they were probably like shocked, like, oh, is that what did Jackson say? What did he say?
all in the press pool, we were all trying to share to see what we were hearing. The jury is majority female, and they range from age, I think, of about 25 to maybe 65.
25 to 65.
And to watch some of them who have not had a lot of facial expressions about what's happening in the courtroom suddenly have expressions. One woman had her mouth open. One woman had her hand over her mouth and was watching. One woman who doesn't often look at the witnesses leaned in and looked at him like this.
Oh my God. Oh my God, imagine having all these people staring at you and then you're testifying, explaining your text messages. Oh my goodness. What a nightmare.
One woman looked back and looked at every single female juror she could look at to make eye contact with.
Like, Y'all hearing this? Y'all hearing this?
Now, I'm leaving the men out because I wasn't necessarily paying attention to them, because suddenly the coalition of women on the jury were reacting to this language, to these words, and at one point they were just shaking their head. One woman laughed that this was just, I have to guess, an outrageous laugh reaction.
Yeah.
Absurd. Like one of those.
Yes,
that's
like
absurd.
Yes.
You know, you have been very
Okay. That's all I wanted to listen to. Oh my God. Proctor. Hey, you could just move out of Canton. Move out of Canton, move out of Massachusetts, you know. Go live in Florida, start your life new.
Now, when you had started with
Oh, boy.
cross-examination the other day, you were asking questions about whether or not
Hi, Joe. How's it going? How are you doing today? Hello. Why does the courtroom look cramped? I've heard this multiple times. Apparently, the defense wants to have the courtroom to be small. That way, the jury can really see the facial expressions of the people that are testifying on the stand. And I guess the judge approved that?
in August of 2022, you disliked or did not like.
I didn't fact check that myself, but multiple people told me that. So.
Yannetti, correct?
That's correct.
Why was that?
Well, basically, he stood up in open court and spouted lie after lie about me, called me corrupt and conflicted, dragged my name through the mud after I spent 10 plus years without a single complaint filed against me, and he had no basis or no facts of these wild accusations because there are none. This investigation was done with the utmost integrity, not just by me, but my supervisors and other troopers in my office, as well as Mr. Yannetti shows up at my sister's school yesterday in the parking lot where he's not welcomed or where people are not supposed to be. Wait,
Yannetti's making facial expressions here. Yannetti's like, wait a second, what?
One of their witnesses and their private investigator, and a teacher sees this, it informs Mr. Yannetti that he can't be there, and instead of saying okay and leaving, he asks, is Courtney Proctor in the building? Does she work here? She called me to see if she was being served.
Objection. Can we approach? Yes.
Yannetti's making faces. Hold on. Saw Karen Reed shaking her head right there. Wait, why are they getting up? Are they kicking the jury out of the room? Ooh, this is a long one. Do y'all recognize any of those people back there? Hello, people in the back. Oh, I think she was the one that was on the news, right? We were just listening to her? The one in the green? Oh, that's Turtle Boy right there. I think John O'Keefe's dad. Did he leave the courtroom again? I know he comes like in and out here and there. I think the jury's coming back in.
Thank you. Maybe see the close back in a second.
Can we just two, please?
Yo, want a Coke? Yeah, Coke. Yeah, Coke.
Nice.
Ken, thank you so much for the re-support. 69 months. Ken, thank you so much for the support using your Twitch Prime. How's it going? How are you doing today? How's everything in Tejas? Is it very humid over there right now? I don't know though. If that's the worst thing he said during a tragedy, he's a better man than me. Well, are you in law enforcement? Are you investigating this woman? And are you saying it within your group chat with other law enforcement and your superiors in there? You know, because I didn't want to go too hard on him in his personal group text messages. But then I was like, I don't know. It seems like he's leaking way too much information that he really needs to be about this case. I get that he's like trying to vent, maybe. But the one that got to me was like, oh, this is the group chat with the other coworkers. Oh, that's not good. I don't think the jury's going to like this.
Jurors, I am striking that last answer. It was probably a partial answer cut off. I'm striking it completely, disregard it. If you took notes, cross the notes out. You're not to consider it in any way. It is completely stricken from the record.
But it's funny though, because like when judges tell you that like, okay, strike that, it's stricken from the record. It's like, it's already in my mind and I might forget later down the road that you told me to strike it. And you know what I mean? Like, I feel like if that's how my mind would work, right? It's like, oh, okay, strike it. But am I going to really remember to erase it out of my brain and to not use it? Oh, I don't know about that. Hey,
Trooper,
Grits.
I'd suggest you listen to the question being asked of you before you answer it.
My apologies, Your Honor.
Keep your voice up, Mr. Lally.
Trooper Proctor, let me try that again. As far as you were asked about text messages that occurred in August of 2022 in which you indicated that you did not like Mr. Gannett, correct?
Correct.
And so at the time of that text message, it was sent in August of 2022. Why was that?
In August of 2022. Why was that?
Yes.
The reasons I laid out, the false accusations of being conflicted and corrupt spouted in an open court, which there's zero evidence of. Like I said, I stand by the integrity of this investigation, as well as every trooper and supervisor in my office.
Were there also motions filed by Mr. Yannetti or by counsel containing photographs of yourself and some children?
Yes.
And what, if anything, were the allegations in regard to the children that were depicted in those photographs?
So the photograph was taken in my parents' backyard.
Objections overruled.
My parents' backyard at a pool party. There's some little kids in the photo. Defense counsel kept insinuating that those were the McCabe's children, when in fact they were my family, my cousins.
Have you, at any point in time, ever met any children of the McCabe's?
No, sir.
In the course of this investigation, as it was sort of alleged on cross-examination, did you essentially pick a suspect and then try to have the evidence fit that?
Objection. Form? PD.
In that form, it's strictly not allowed to ask if that relates to them.
How did you conduct this investigation, you and the other troopers involved?
From the start of this investigation, with an open mind. Like I said earlier, we didn't know what we had, possible medical. So as the day went on and we collected more evidence and developed compelling.
When he says possible medical, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. Like, it was a possible medical? Because, like, when I'm hearing, like, oh, it could have been a medical thing, like, oh, like he had a heart attack? Or, like, or does medical mean that he got hurt, but he's going to make it out of it? Or, right? Because, but I don't know why he would say possible medical. Like, they think that, like, he was so drunk, had a heart attack, and then just, like, slept on the lawn and just froze to death or something, natural causes. But what would make them think that, right? Especially if he'd had, like, the scratches on his face, the bruising, the, you know, all that stuff. That's why I'm a little confused what he means by medical. Or does he just mean that, like, oh, it's like that he's getting medical treatment and that it's not serious or like super serious yet, as in like a homicide serious?
Evidence against Miss Reed.
Now, with reference to this investigation, it continued after January 29, 2022, when you had those text communications with your friends, correct?
Yes.
Was there additional information that you compiled over the course of that investigation following January 29, 2022?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Following that date of those text messages on January 29, 2022, yes. Was there additional information that was gathered over the course of your investigation by yourself or others?
How's it going, Grits? Have you been watching this trial or bits and pieces of it?
Troopers involved in the investigation.
Yes.
And from that additional information that was gathered, what, if any, information that was gathered throughout the course of the investigation indicated that anyone besides Ms. Reed had anything to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death?
All the information gathered after that date indicated no one else was responsible for Mr. O'Keefe's death.
And sir, you were asked some questions on cross-examination about testimony in a prior proceeding and shown specifically at page 01563, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Oh, you're at work?
Well, sir, I'm giving you 0156263.
I'm like debating right now if I want to catch up on Elden Ring so I can play the DLC, but I'm like, oh God, do I want to put myself through this?
64, and ask you to read those and look up.
Comes out next week, right? Elden Ring DLC release. Friday midnight. Ooh, June 21.
What were the numbers again, Mr. Lally?
1562, 63, and 64, I believe.
Hey, Rain, I feel you. I feel you on that, okay? There are times where I'm like, why am I watching this? Why am I watching this? But it's my curiosity. It's my curiosity at this point. Yeah. This trial stresses me the fuck out. But I want to know, are we going to get there, Mr. Lally? What happened? Or is it just going to be like, okay, that seems like a waste of time. Now what? Yes. I was told I need to play Elden Ring. I'm like, I could barely play Mario Kart. Hey, Mario Kart can be tough, okay? There are people that are assholes, all right? Shooting them shells at you and shit. Bananas. Tough. But I love Elden Ring. It depends though. It depends on what kind of games you like. I loved Dark Souls 1, or I still do. I love Dark Souls 1. And I don't know, I love that time frame. I love the medieval shit. I like how the story is like not super straightforward. It looks beautiful. I love how dark it is. It's gory. Like, oh, it's so good.
Trooper, after reviewing those
It's just the game is hard, but they make it so if the game is too hard for you, they make it so there are ways for you to make the game easier for you. So like there are certain equipments you can have that makes it easier. Certain like builds you can do that makes it easier. Or if you just really suck, you know, you just keep trying to level up in the area and then get a higher level before you go to another area. Like I don't know, there are many ways that the game can be easier for you, but I don't know, I just love it. It's so good. Oh, it's so good. And then when you watch those lore videos and they explain to you all these things that you missed because you're just too busy on focusing on not getting your ass whooped by the boss. So good. I don't know. And the music and everything. Oh my gosh. But it's definitely not a relaxing game, okay? Moonduck says, I want to relax playing games. It is not a relaxing game, okay? It's beautiful when you're like going from one area to another, but no, you're still going to get fucked by all the monsters that are around the area, okay? It's not relaxing. Corey, what am I going to do? A no-hit? No. I'm not a try-hard, okay? Any of those like platinums, whatever, silver, those badge of honor things. No, I'm good. I'm good. If I could just finish the game, that's enough for me.
those 3 pages, is there now more context to what you were just asked about on one specific page of that testimony?
Yes.
And those were questions related to what you had told and what you had informed other people within the office or your supervisors in relation to relationships with both the McCabe's and the office, correct?
Correct.
And in the course of that testimony, did you relay to that body the same testimony you just relayed to this jury in regard?
Wait, what? That's an old video. Hi, Christine. Yeah, that's an old video. Sorry, let me go back.
What you were just asked about on one specific page of that testimony?
Yes.
And those were questions related to what you had told and what you had informed other people within the office or your supervisors in relation to relationships with both the McCabe's and the office, correct?
Correct.
And in the course of that testimony, did you relay to that body the same testimony you just relayed to this jury in regard to photographs of children and defense counsel attributing those to being McCabe's children, which they were not?
Yes.
Now,
oh God, the cave children. It says, your brother finished Final Fantasy Platinum. Oh, the like original Final Fantasy or the new one that's out? I haven't finished Final Fantasy Remake yet, but we're getting close. We're more than halfway done. We're good.
you were asked some questions by Mr. Jackson in regard to what you knew or why your focus was not on Brian Alberts later on in the evening of January 29, 2022, correct?
Correct.
And why was that? Why was your focus not on Brian Albert at that time?
There was just no evidence that Mr. L was involved anyway. Like I said before, from witness interviews, the statements Ms. Reed provided to witnesses, the one shoe left at the scene, the taillight pieces found underneath the snow that were dug out by the CERT team, the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, the one shoe at the hospital that was observed. Her statements to us, Sergeant Mechanic and I, while we interviewed her, clearly the broken taillight and the fact that...
Oh, also, he was coordinating with Kevin Albert. So again, Canton PD recused himself because of conflict. But he was texting, communicating with Brian Albert about setting up like interview rooms and all that stuff, which is weird. But not only that, he's like, we just don't record interviews. I'm like, why? Why don't you guys want to record interviews? That's the best part. Recording interviews. They're so good. You can go back to it. We can watch it. Why not record these fucking interviews? And I know that the interviews that he's recording, they're of people that are willing to come in, blah, 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 blah. But like still, record the damn interviews, man. Come on. It's like 2022. Why are we recording any of these interviews? Ugh.
Leaving Brockton, instead of going to Dighton, she backtracked to go to Canton to retrieve her vehicle and then go double back to go to Dighton, which I found odd.
Hold on a second.
To Mr. O'Keefe, the one shoe at the hospital that was observed. Her statements to us, Sergeant Mechanic and I, while we interviewed her, clearly the broken taillight and the fact that leaving Brockton, instead of going to Dighton, she backtracked to go to Canton to retrieve her vehicle and then go double back to go to Dighton, which I found odd.
Now, if at any point in time over the course of your investigation you had evidence which led you to...
Wait, why was Karen Reed in Brockton? I know Brockton is like, I think the midway point between Canton and Dighton. Why was she in Brockton? Does her brother live in Brockton or someone else does?
Believe that Mr. Abbott was involved in the death of Mr. O'Keefe, what would you have done?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
With regard to, again, you testified Beyond January 29th, at any point in your investigation, did you find any information or evidence leading you to believe that Ryan Albert was involved in the death of John O'Keefe?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No.
Now, if you had found information leading to that conclusion or evidence leading to that, what would you have done?
Objection.
I will allow it.
Not only myself, but members of my office would have pursued that.
Regardless of his position,
I feel like his answer would be, oh, I would recuse myself because, you know, my sister is best friends with his wife and blah, 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 blah.
correct?
Regardless of what he does for a profession.
You know what I mean, Approach?
Yes.
Please.
Document I showed you the other day. You recognize that?
That is text communications between me and my high school buddies.
And, sir, if I could direct your attention within there to
Oh boy, Lolly, why are you bringing up the text messages again? Is this going to help or?
page 2535.
Yes, sir.
This is
We were
redirect.
asking questions about text on that page, but also there's a text on that page that begins with, they arrived at house together,
Oh, let me update. Yeah, this is redirect now.
correct?
Correct.
And what is the date and time associated with that text message that you sent?
That was sent on January 29th, 2022 at 11 p.m.
And what is the content, or what did you send to that group? That text message.
The message reads, they arrived at the house together, got into an argument. She was driving and left.
So that's also information that you had late in the evening of January 29th, 2022, correct?
Objection.
Confirm that, Sister.
With respect to that information you conveyed in that text message, when did you learn it?
During the course of the day on the 29th.
May I approach Ron?
Yes.
Mr. Retrieve?
Just frisbeed across the room. Hi, Terry. You're an hour late. It's okay. You can catch up.
Trooper DeChico and Trooper Dunn interviewed Ms. Roberts.
And my apologies. When I was saying you, I meant collectively.
Yes.
But you specifically yourself and Sergeant Mechanic, you also spoke with the defendant on January 29th, correct?
Lolly has no appreciation of how toxic a dad. I think Lolly knows, and that's why he's so defeated. He's just like, can I get those messages now? Okay, thank you.
Correct.
And that would have been prior to any of the text communications that were contained within that chat with your friends, correct?
Correct.
Let me ask you something about charging decisions. Is that something that you make in this case or any case?
I don't make any charging decisions. We're essentially fact finders.
So as far as what Ms. Reed was charged with or when she was charged with it, that's not something that's within your purview, correct?
No, not at all.
Now, specifically, you were asking questions about some text messages between yourself and Trooper DeChico in regard to the medical exam, correct?
Correct.
And those occurred in April of 2022, is that correct?
Yes.
Was the defendant, Ms. Reed, charged with murder in April of 2022?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No.
It was May.
That
I
wasn't
think.
until June of 2020,
Oh, June.
correct?
That's correct.
And that was at the conclusion of the grand jury, is that correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
And you're aware that there was a grand jury in this case, correct?
Objection. Overturn that.
Okay.
Yes.
Here's that.
And are you aware of certain witnesses that testified at the grand jury?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Yes.
Are you aware that Dr. Sporty Bello testified at the grand jury?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Yes.
And so, false reason then that the defendant wasn't charged with murder until after the grand jury concluded and Dr. Sporty Bello had testified before that grand jury, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
I mean, then what's the issue then? Why not have the medical examiner testify before?
Now, the Albert family that you were familiar with some members of, that's not an entity, correct?
No.
Individual members of a family, some you know, some you may not, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Watch your phone, Mr. Allen.
Certainly not. How many members of the Albert family did you know when you started this investigation in January, or when you received this call on January 29th, 2022?
Julie, Chris Albert, Colin, and Kevin Albert.
Now, you were asking questions about interviewing Julie Albert and Chris Albert at their home on February 10th, correct?
Yes.
Now, with respect to that date, had you ever been to that home prior to February 10th?
I'd not been to that, this kind of their new home. I'd never been to their new home or the previous home either.
Now, as far as conversations with either Julie or Chris Albert, when was the last time you talked to them before you interviewed them on February 10th?
Do I think she's innocent? I don't think Lolly has proved beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't think we're even close to that. I'm confused. I guess we'll get to these expert witnesses.
I believe I'd reached out to Julie to coordinate the interview, but prior to prior to this case, there was that one random text message she sent me and my sister when I was going on a family ski trip. They weren't a part of it. She wanted me to take a video of my sister skiing, but
That was in February 2022. Correct?
yeah.
So what my question is prior to February 10th, 2022, prior to any arrangements to schedule an interview for February 10th, when was the last time that you spoke to either Julie Albert or Chris Albert, if you know?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Now, with regard to that text message in regard to skiing in late February 2022, you were shown that text message, correct?
Yes.
Was there any response from you?
No.
Did you have any further communication with Julie Albert after that interview on January 29th, 2022, related to this investigation?
I recall the serving her for grand jury. I know she wanted to kind of have an idea of what the process was like. So there's communications regarding that.
And was that something that was solely done with Julie Albert or other witnesses or?
All the witnesses that were called in the grand jury, it's unusual for, the majority of civilians to be called in the grand jury. So they obviously have questions about the process.
Now, as far as babysitting for your children, is that something that Julie Albert ever did?
No.
And as far as those text communications between yourself and your sister regarding that, is that something that you would ask for, something that your sister had suggested?
Yeah, my sister had suggested that. We never followed up with having Julie watch my kids.
Now, you were asked some questions about text messages with your sister Courtney, correct?
Correct.
And I believe a couple times you would use the term, well, let me ask you this first. With regard to from January 29th throughout at least January, February 2022, this was this case became something that was on the news on a fairly regular basis, correct?
News and social media, yes.
And so when you were using the term in describing what you spoke to your sister about as far as newsworthy, what did you mean by that?
I personally believe the defense is making things look like there's a lot of reasons to doubt. Yeah, okay, let's go to paint really quick. Okay, this is us trying to figure out. Ooh, how do I do colors? Here's Karen Reed here. Okay, this is Karen Reed right here. She's right here. This is Karen Reed, right? This is us trying to figure out, did Karen Reed do it? But then here's like the smoke of all the bullshit that's going on right now, and us we're trying to get in there to figure out, did Karen Reed do it? But it's hard because there's so much smoke in here. It's just a lot of bullshit. And we're like, can we just get here, please? Can we just get here? Can you call the ME? Can you call like experts who's going to talk about the screenshots of these messages, if the messages were deleted or not, the search history, like blah, blah, blah. Can we just get here? So we're waiting. That's all. We're waiting.
My sister lives in Canton, so there's a lot of, as well on the news and social media stuff that was being discussed on those platforms.
Now, as far as the discussions that you had with regard to your sister, how would you describe or how would you characterize the type of information that you shared with her, if any?
Sorry, I'm going to go back a little bit. Hey, what's up, Storm? How's it going? I don't know if the extra witnesses will do anything to clean up much, but we'll give them a chance.
At least January, February 2022, this was this case became something that was on the news on a fairly regular basis, correct?
News and
from January 29th throughout at least January, February 2022, this was
on the news. Okay.
This case became something that was on the news on a fairly regular basis, correct?
News and social media, yes.
And so when you were using the term in describing what you spoke to your sister about as far as newsworthy, what did you mean by that?
My sister lives in Canton, so there's a lot of, as well on the news and social media stuff that was being discussed on those platforms.
Now, as far as the discussions that you had with regard to your sister, how would you describe or how would you characterize the type of information that you shared with her, if any?
Just general information, nothing specific about the case.
You were also asked about a specific text from your sister on January 30th. It started out with, I believe it was Jesus Christ. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was in reference to the body of Mr. O'Keefe being found on Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
Correct.
And so she's asking you about that on January 30th, correct?
Yes.
So fair to reason that wasn't something that you shared with her prior to January 30th, correct?
Correct.
And something that you hadn't shared with her at all at that point that you received that text communication, correct?
Correct.
Sustained is to inform. Watch how you ask these questions, Mr. Valley, as your witness.
Yes, sir. With regard to that information, as far as who the homeowner was, what, if anything, had you shared with Sister Courtney prior?
Oh, the what if anything. I feel like Lolly was doing a lot better in asking direct questions, especially when he's doing the direct examination from Proctor. Way more direct.
You receiving that text from her, indicating her knowledge.
Yeah, I don't recall sharing anything with in regards to the homeowner.
Now, in regard to any issues of a gift or request for a gift, How would you characterize that? Was that serious? Was that in jest? How would you characterize that?
I didn't take.
I'll allow it.
I didn't take that offer seriously. And as I had mentioned I believe on Monday, that I didn't ask for a gift. I never received one. I kind of said, give my wife a gift. She had been home about 10 straight nights with the boys. We had another homicide a week before. So that was my response, get Elizabeth one. And she never received one.
But the response should have just been, oh, no, don't give me a gift. We're good. Thanks.
Now, you were asked some questions about Colin Albert, correct?
Correct.
And as far as what, if any, information did you have as far as Colin Albert and his being at 34th Fairview at the same time as anyone from coming back from the waterfall?
My understanding, Colin arrived later on to just see his cousin, his birthday. He didn't stay that long, maybe an hour, a little over an hour. And as he was leaving, I think he ran into his aunt and uncle as his ride had arrived out front and left at sometime around 12:10 a.m.
Was that information that you had prior to your interview with Colin Albert?
We knew Colin wasn't at the house. The timing was provided by Colin.
And at any point in time in your investigation, what, if any, evidence did you ever receive that Colin Albert was at 34th Fairview at the same time as Mr. O'Keefe or the defendant?
Based on Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone location data using his Waze app, Colin Albert is leaving around like 12:10 a.m. Mr. O'Keefe is about a half a mile away at 12:20 a.m. So they.
Oh, wait, whose Waze app is this?
Time as Mr. O'Keefe or the defendant?
Based on Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone location data using his Waze app, Colin Albert is leaving around like 12:10 a.m. Mr. O'Keefe
I was hoping it would be on Colin's phone.
is about a half a mile away at 12:20 a.m. So they did not cross paths.
Now, Mr. Jackson was asking about some people as far as interviews or later in October or so of 2022 or beyond. You were given 5 names as far as Brian Albert Jr., Julie Nagel, Ms. Kent, Ms. Fabiano, Ms. Alba, and Ms. Levinson, and Colin Albert, correct?
Yes.
And then you were asked about 3 people that you had interviewed, and then were asked if there was only 1 person left, that being Colin Albert, correct?
Correct.
That math match up as far as 5 people, 3 given, and only 1 person not interviewed?
No.
Now, with reference to Ms. Kent, Ms. Fabiano, and Ms. Alba, to your knowledge, have they been interviewed at any point in time?
No.
Why not?
They weren't present for when the adults had arrived back from the waterfall.
They left 34th Fairview like Colin Albert prior to the waterfall people coming in.
Objection. Sustained is left.
But I think the issue the defense was trying to bring up was those names were written in his notepad or something like that, but not Colin's names. Like, oh, why didn't you write Colin's name? He's like, oh, well, Colin wasn't there when the adults were there. But it was like, oh, but you wrote these other people's names that were there before. And he's like, oh, I wrote their name because they were there for an hour before or something like that. I don't know. I was like a little bit confused about that one.
What, if any, information did you have with regards to the whereabouts of Ms. Kent, Ms. Fabiano, Ms.
I sold Elden Ring. Jen was over here this past week, and I was like, let me see where I am in my save file. But no, I sold Elden Ring back.
Alba and Colin Albert in relation to 34th Fairview and the arrival of people from the waterfall?
They had left the residence.
So, with respect to Colin Albert, why was it that he was interviewed and not Ms. Kent, Ms. Fabiano, and Ms. Alba?
Colin was falsely accused of.
Objection. Can you answer that same question Mr. Lally asked you differently?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead. Answer it.
Colin was the subject of a third-party culprit that had no evidence to back that up.
Objection. I'm going to allow that.
That had no evidence to back that up, that he was involved whatsoever. My office and myself felt the need to interview Colin, sit him down, and get his story, his facts of that evening. So that's why we interviewed him at that date and time later on.
And when you say we, do you recall who was present with you when you interviewed Colin Albert?
Trooper Zachary Clark.
Are you aware of Sergeant Mechanic getting screenshots from both Colin Albert and from Ms. Allie McCabe in relation to text communications they had about picking up Colin Albert from 34th Fairview on January 29th?
Yes.
But in trial, it's like, we want to see more than just screenshots, right? We want to see the data behind it.
You were asking questions about Ms. McCabe's cell phone, is that correct?
Yes.
And as far as any material on that phone, are you an expert when it comes to cell phone extractions and what different material may mean within cell phone extraction?
No, that's left to Trooper Garino in our office.
Are you aware of reports regarding those searches from Trooper Nicholas Garino and Ms. Jessica Hyde and Mr. Ian Whitman?
I am aware of those, yes.
And those are people who are experts, those are people who have special knowledge or specialized knowledge as it relates to Cellbrite technology that you do not, correct?
Objection.
One of the questions, sustained.
What, if any, knowledge are you aware of Trooper Nicholas Norino, Ms. Jessica Hyde, and Mr. Ian Withen having with respect to Cellbrite or cell phone technology that you do not?
Objection.
Allowing it in the building.
Yeah, I mean, I might just buy it again, get a physical copy, I guess, maybe. Maybe I should go to Facebook Marketplace.
You are
You are muted. She is
Now,
getting
as
the
far
Steam version, but it's nice to play on my PS5 on the big screen sometimes.
Your conversations with Kevin Allen, how would you characterize those in relation to this investigation?
They had nothing to do with this investigation. Like I said, we were working a cold case together. We also work on other cases together that, unattended deaths that I'll respond to, a potential suicide or an overdose in the town of Canton that I'll respond to. But the topic of our conversations were in regards to the cold case or unresolved case that we're working together.
May I approach?
Yes.
I do.
Will you recognize that?
Text communication with Kevin Albert.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to debate stand pages of
So Kevin Albert wasn't there that night. It was Brian Albert and Chris Albert.
2600 and 2601.
Kevin Albert's another sibling.
Yes, sir.
Now, in regards to activities on that particular date, you had indicated that you had conversations with Kevin Albert about working a cold case from the town of Canton, correct?
Yes.
And specifically on that date, where did the two of you go?
I recall going down to the Cape to interview at least one person of interest.
And that was down in the town of Sandwich, to be specific, is that correct?
Yes,
Now, in reference to Kevin Albert leaving his badge in your car, do you recall that?
I do.
If I could direct your attention to page 2602. And what, if any, text communication is contained on that page as far as you asking Kevin Albert any questions about his address?
After I informed Kevin Albert I had located his badge, I follow up, what's your address? I will drop it off after the gym.
You're asking his address because you don't know his address, correct?
Correct.
Sustained.
Why are you asking for his address?
I've never been to his house and I don't know where he lives.
You're so close with him that you don't know where his house is. Correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
And process retrieve, Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay, I mean that's a good part to bring in. But he should still mention.
You were asked a question.
He should still mention his family's relationship with the Alberts, and then how he came across with some of the Alberts at some point in time, right?
About
And how Julie Alberts was going to be his babysitter, but then she there's no response or something.
ring videos from One Meadows Avenue, Mr. O'Keefe's home, is that correct?
Yes.
To be clear, did you delete any ring videos from Mr. O'Keefe's account, either on his app on his phone or from the materials that you received pursuant to the search?
Absolutely not.
Now, when you saw that there were ring videos missing from times that you expected videos to be, specifically what I'm asking about is Ms. Reed or the defendant's arrival at the home after leaving Fairview Road, and Ms. McCabe, Ms. Roberts, and the defendant's departure from One Meadows to Fairview Road later on that morning. What did you do?
I reached out to Ring several different times. They informed me if a video is deleted, there's no digital footprint of that. It's essentially kind of gone forever.
What? Oh my God. Are you serious? Oh man. Now a lot of people out there will be like, oh, that's good information to know.
And with respect to that time frame,
Maybe they changed that.
what, if any, other additional steps did you take to try to retrieve that video? Was there a second search warrant, sir?
Yes.
You were looking for additional information from that same ring, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
What, if anything, were you looking for in that second search?
Additional video.
You were asking questions about notes from Trooper DeChico, correct?
Correct.
As far as that 0041 note, do you know what that means?
That just tells me it's a time.
And do you know specifically whether or not that is something that Trooper DeChico saw or something that Trooper DeChico was looking for?
That's something Trooper Chico could answer for.
Can we see the notes so we can see the context of it? Ugh.
Let me have just a moment. Your Honor.
Yes.
So you were asking questions about Sally Port video at Canton Police Station, correct?
Yes.
Go back.
Saw or something that Trooper DeChico was looking for?
That's something Trooper Chico could answer for.
Questions about Sally Port video at Canton Police Station, correct?
Yes.
And you arrived at the Sally Port garage of the Canton Police Station sometime around or shortly after 5:30 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Now, that 5:30 p.m. time, is that before or after 5:07 a.m.?
After.
And 5:07 a.m. is when the Exhibit 6, video number, I believe, 153, with the defendant backing out of the garage where you testified on Monday, you observed some damage to the taillight, correct?
Correct.
And you're aware of some other ring video from Mr. O'Keefe's house showing the defendant,
5:06 a.m.
Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe, arriving at his house, in which you can see damage to the right passenger taillight, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware of a cruiser camera video from the Canton Police Station? You're aware of some other ring video from Mr. O'Keefe's house showing the defendant, Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe, arriving at his house, in which you can see damage to the right passenger taillight.
I don't know if I remember seeing damage. I remember seeing the 3 women arriving at the house, but I don't remember if I was able to see the damage because it was on the other side.
Correct.
Are you aware of a cruiser camera video from the Canton Police Station, Police Department, specifically Lieutenant Ray, going to 1 Meadows Ave 822 in the morning on the 29th, in which you can also observe damage to the taillight?
Objection.
Sustained as to inform.
Police Station. You're aware of some other ring video from Mr. O'Keefe's house showing the defendant, Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe, arriving at his house, in which you can see damage to the right passenger taillight, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware of a cruiser camera video from the Canton Police Station, Police Department, specifically Lieutenant Ray, going to 1 Meadows Ave 822 in the morning on the 29th, in which you can also observe damage to the taillight?
Objection.
Sustained as to inform.
That's a welfare check, right?
As far as 8:22 in the morning, what if any video from 1 Meadows Avenue are you aware of depicting the defendant's taillight?
Canton Police Department went to conduct a well-being check, and on the dash cruiser camera, you can see the back of Miss Reed's vehicle and the right taillight to be broken and missing pieces.
And as far as your time at the home indictment vehicle, the defendant's vehicle was towed from that location on that day, correct?
Correct.
And what, if any, video are you aware of from that driveway, which depicts the right rear passenger side taillight of the defendant's vehicle?
Yeah, as the vehicle's being put on the tow truck, you can make out that there's some pieces missing.
Now, sir, if I could turn you back to those text messages with your friends, January 29th, 2022. With that time in mind, at that point in time, well, let me ask before, as far as all those other videos that we talked to, all of those videos precede your time in the Sally Port garage at 5:30 p.m. on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
Now, with reference to, you mentioned in your testimony the other day, earlier, that at some point in time later in the day or early in that evening, you had met for a debriefing with yourself and the other troopers involved in the investigation on January 29th, is that correct?
Yes.
So fair to say the information that had been collected by yourself and the other troopers on January 29th, you had that in mind, or you were aware of that when you were involved in these text communications with your friends, correct?
Yes.
And so were you, at that time that you're texting with your friends, you had seen the defendant's vehicle?
Correct, yes.
And you had seen the damage to the taillight, correct?
Yes.
And you were aware that Lieutenant Tully and the CERT team had conducted a search around 34.
Sorry, I was trying to find the Jen McCabe testimony where they went to the house and then they're talking about that.
Well,
Hold on. I'll speed it up.
Let me have this moment.
Yes.
At the Sally Port garage, you were asking questions about notes from Trooper DeChico, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So you were asking questions about Sally Port video at Canton Police Station, correct?
Yes.
And you arrived at the Sally Port garage of the Canton Police Station sometime around or shortly after 5:30 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm doing it times 2 really quick, just really quick.
Now, that 5:30 p.m. time, is that before or after 5:07 a.m.?
After.
And 5:07 a.m. is when
Oh, 5:07 a.m. I missed that. I don't know why. Sometimes when Lolly speaks, there's some words that just goes over my head.
Exhibit 6, video number 153, the defendant backing out of the garage where you testified on Monday, you observed some damage to the taillight, correct?
Correct.
And you're aware of some other ring video from Mr. O'Keefe's house showing the defendant, Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe, arriving at his house, in which you can see damage to the right passenger taillight, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware of a cruiser camera video from the Canton Police Station, Police Department, specifically Lieutenant Ray, going to 1 Meadows Ave 822 in the morning on the 29th, in which you can also observe damage to the taillight?
Objection.
Sustained as to inform.
As far as 8:22 in the morning, what if any video from 1 Meadows Avenue are you aware of depicting the defendant's taillight?
Canton Police Department went to conduct a well-being check, and on the dash cruiser camera, you can see the back of Miss Reed's vehicle and the right taillight to be broken and missing pieces.
And as far as your time at the home indictment vehicle, the defense vehicle was towed from that location on that day, correct?
Correct.
And what, if any, video are you aware of from that driveway, which depicts the right rear passenger side taillight of the defense vehicle?
Yeah, as the vehicle's being put on the tow truck, you can make out that there's some pieces missing.
It's hard. I don't know. We like I don't know. I feel like it wasn't super prominent. It was just like, oh, maybe.
Now, sir, if I could turn you back to those text messages with your friends, January 29th, 2022. With that time in mind, at that point in time, well, let me ask before, as far as all those other videos that we talked to, all of those videos precede your time in Sally Port garage, 5:30 p.m. on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
Now, with reference to, you mentioned in your testimony the other day, earlier, that at some point in time later in the day or early in that evening, you had met for a debriefing with yourself and the other troopers involved in the investigation on January 29th, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, I'm slowing it down now. Hey, how's it going? How are you, Kiki? Hello, hello.
Well, fair to say the information that had been collected.
Well, yeah, we'll let Miss Becky and Mr. Proctor, they could live in the same town together.
By yourself and the other troopers on January 29th, you had that in mind, or you were aware of that when you were involved in these text communications with your friends, correct?
Yes.
And so were you, at that time that you're texting with your friends, you had seen the defendant's vehicle?
Correct, yes.
When you had seen the damage to the taillight, correct?
Yes.
And you were aware that Lieutenant Tully and the CERT team had conducted a search around 34 Fairview and recovered Mr. O'Keefe's sneaker and taillight?
Objection.
Sustained as to form.
What, if anything, were you aware of in regard to Lieutenant Tully doing with the CERT team at 34 Fairview earlier that day?
Detective Lieutenant Tully and the CERT team conducted a search, discovered
Oh, okay. So Tully was there. Lieutenant Tully. Tully, but isn't Tully Canton PD?
several pieces of broken taillight pieces, as well as Mr. O'Keefe's missing shoe.
And the shoe that Lieutenant Tully and the CERT team had retrieved, what, if anything, did you observe in relation to that and the shoe that you and Sergeant Mechanic had retrieved from the Good Samaritan Hospital?
Yeah, they were matched. They were both black Nike sneakers with the white logo.
Now, you had talked to first responders, correct?
Yes.
And that included firefighter Flamani?
Correct.
And that included Sergeant Good?
Yes.
You had done interviews with regard to Brian Albert, correct?
Yes.
Jennifer McCabe, correct?
Correct.
Matthew McCabe, correct?
Yes.
The defendant?
Yes.
And other troopers from your unit had also interviewed Kelly Roberts, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware of statements that were attributed by Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe to the defendant as far as what she told them earlier that morning?
Yes.
And you're aware of statements that Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts had made to troopers in regard to what they had observed that morning?
Yes.
Now, were you aware that both Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts indicated in interviews on January 29th that when they had got to 34 Fairview Road, they could not see Mr. O'Keefe's body? However, the defendant sort of bolted out of the backseat of the vehicle directly over to Mr. O'Keefe's body.
Objection.
You can ask that differently, Mr. Lally.
With respect to the statements from Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts in regard to their arrival at 34 Fairview around 6 a.m. in the morning, what, if anything, stood out to you or were you aware of in relation to those statements?
Yeah, from those statements, as Ms. Roberts was driving down Fairview, Ms. McCabe was in the passenger seat, Ms. Reed was in the back. Obviously, whiteout conditions as they're coming down like that slight hill, getting just before the left side of the property. Ms. McCabe, Ms. Roberts indicated that. Ms. Reed said, "There he is. I see him." And Ms. McCabe, Ms. Roberts didn't know what Ms. Reed was talking about. They stopped the car. Ms. Reed ran directly over to John O'Keefe's body. And even when Ms. Reed had exited the vehicle, Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts still didn't know what was going on and what she was running to.
Now, were you aware from your conversation with firefighter Flamani that the defendant had stated, "I hit him," in the presence of firefighter Flamani earlier that morning?
Yes.
And were you also aware of statements the defendant made to other first responders about her being or getting into an argument with Mr. O'Keefe as she was dropping him off at 34 Fairview, indicating the last time she saw him?
Later on in subsequent interviews.
Man, usually when you're doing these wrap-up questions with a lead detective, you're like, get him, go, go, go. But these questions are just not hitting so hard. Because the jury is probably just remembering all the shit that happened before Mr. Lally came in to do redirect.
So later part of the evening, that you're sending these text communications within this group chat in the later part of the evening, January 29th, 2022. What is it that you did know in relation to your investigation with regard to Ms. Reed, the defendant, and or anyone else?
All right. So we knew the last person seen with Mr. O'Keefe alive was Ms. Reed. We knew they were traveling to Fairview Road. Witnesses stated they saw a SUV out front of the house. It went from one side to the other. Ms. McCabe was texting John, parked behind me, things like that.
Yeah, okay. This is the footage when they pulled up. You can't see Karen's car in here. Oh. Why did it turn? Hello?
Ms. Gilman, if I could have
Because I think a lot of us looked really close, like, oh, can you see if the taillight's busted or not?
video number 154 from the driveway.
Hi, Dart. Unless this video's inverted. Like, you can't see the taillight. There's just, like, snow. Just caked on there.
Ms. McCabe, directing your attention up to the screen, what's been marked as Exhibit 6 or video from Exhibit 6. Do you recognize what's depicted in this video?
I do.
What do you recognize?
That's myself getting out of the car at Meadows Ave.
Is that essentially where you parked Ms. Reed's vehicle when you pulled in?
Yes.
If you could just direct the jury's attention with a laser pointer as to where Ms. Reed's vehicle is that you parked and if you see Ms. Roberts' vehicle.
That is Miss Reed's, and that would be Miss Roberts.
And as far as the right garage door that you entered into the house, if you could direct the jury's attention to whereabouts that would, I know it's not on the video, but where would it be?
Walk straight.
Somebody could run this.
Yeah, so she's walking by it. This is the part where I thought the taillight was going to be pointed out.
Run this.
All right, I just want to get these fucking screen grabs really quick. Screen grabs, please. I wonder if that's when she noticed the taillight was busted, when she walked by it just now. Seems like she kind of like looked in that direction or like glanced at it, right? She like turned her head to look at it. Okay, but I mean, you can't see the taillight busted here.
Alive was Miss Reed. We knew that.
What else?
All right. So we knew the last person seen with Mr. O'Keefe alive was Miss Reed. We knew they were traveling to Fairview Road. Witnesses stated they saw a SUV out front of the house. We went from one side to the other. Miss McCabe was texting John, parked behind me, things of that nature. John never went into the house. And then the following morning, Miss Reed, Miss Roberts, and Miss McCabe located Mr. O'Keefe on the front lawn. I observed those injuries at the hospital. The one sneaker. Later on in the day, the CERT team, along with Detective Lieutenant Tully, found broken taillight pieces that matched Miss Reed's taillight, as well as the missing sneaker that matched Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle. Some inconsistent statements that Miss Reed had provided to Sergeant Mechanic and I. Yeah.
Man, if only that was recorded and we can listen to the inconsistent statements.
Time that you made those.
Did I beat Rebirth yet? No. I'm getting pretty close, though. Ish, maybe. I'm more than 50%.
Comments, disparaging comments in regard to Miss Reed in the context of those communications with your friends. As inexcusable, as unprofessional as those comments are. The information you had was that Miss Reed had struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
Yeah, you gotta watch the performance now. Let's sustain.
Time that you made those inexcusable and unprofessional comments. What did you believe the defendant had done to Mr. O'Keefe?
I believe, based on all the physical evidence and facts, Mr. O'Keefe got out of that vehicle holding that cocktail glass. He walked out of the waterfall.
Oh, are we finally gonna get what we think happened? Jeez. What were the inconsistent statements? I don't know. I can go back to his direct examination, but I don't think he really pointed out what the inconsistent statements were. He just mentioned that he went to the house, talked to Karen Reed. She was sitting in the living room. She had her laptop out. This is where they go over the text messages. Oh, God. Let me see if I have it. So they're on their way. They saw the tail light. Did I not write it down? I'll take a look for it.
With Miss Reed pulled ahead and then backed into him, struck him with her vehicle. I believe, based on all the physical evidence and facts, Mr. O'Keefe got out of that vehicle holding that cocktail glass. He walked out of the waterfall bar with.
Oh, okay. Because someone mentioned throwing glass at John's head. And I was like, wait, is that a theory? They think that maybe someone threw a glass at John's head and that's why he has that? All right. But then I was like, it came out of nowhere, though. So I was like, I don't know where that came out from. But Buchanan brought that up. But then they were like, oh, no, but you said that you thought that something struck his face, not the back of the head. And he was like, oh.
Miss Reed pulled ahead and then backed into him, struck him with her vehicle, and then left.
They came back
But only hit him once?
5.5 hours later, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Wait, and came back when? Oh, 5.5 hours later.
They came back 5.5 hours later, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Jackson, very briefly, Your Honor. So you think that your assessment, personal assessment, that Karen Reed had struck this officer with a car, gave you license to call her a cunt?
Objection.
Right?
Yep.
Based on the evidence, sir, my motions got the best of me. So it was in poor taste. Yes, it was it was inappropriate, juvenile, but it was my motions had gotten the best of me.
And you called her a whack job. Gave you license to call her that too.
Yes.
Gave you license to say to your friends, oh, no. she's fucked, right?
That's what I wrote.
Gave you license to say that she's a retard.
Again, another disgusting comment.
Sir, you had an agenda from...
Because Jackson must know how the jury reacted when those text messages came up. So that's why he's like, okay, well, let me lament on it again.
Moment one, did you not?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you have an agenda?
Objection.
Sustained. Same question.
Oh, it was a good one the first time. So the fact that you believe, personally, that your narrative was she hit him with a car, you get to talk about her leaky balloon knot, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
You indicated on cross-examination that you saw a video at 8:22 a.m. with some damage to Ms. Reed's right rear tailgate, correct?
Yes.
8:22 before or after 5:07 a.m.?
After.
What's the bumper of LX? Oh, you're talking about the car. Sorry, I was talking about something else. The LX, the vehicle. What about it?
You also said that you had no idea where Kevin Albert lived, right?
Correct.
But you did say about getting his badge to him after that drunken night with him, that you just leave it in your mailbox, right?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes, my mailbox.
Yeah. So he obviously knew where you lived.
Yes.
And then you said, there's no evidence whatsoever, your words, no evidence whatsoever. You talked about Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Colin Albert, no evidence whatsoever that they were involved in the death of John O'Keefe, right?
Correct.
Trooper Proctor, you're the one responsible for gathering the evidence, correct?
Objection.
Sorry, guys. I gotta go to the bathroom. I can go to the bathroom real quick. I don't want to get a UTI. Hold on. How's it going? You're playing Soul Mask right now? You're waiting for Elden Ring? How is Soul Mask? Oh, wait, no, sorry. I thought Storm said that. Well, I guess. Jan, how is Soul Mask, man? Still enjoying it?
Right?
I am one part of a greater group of detectives that gathers evidence. I'm just one part of that unit.
You're the pointy end of the spear, aren't you?
Objection.
Sustained.
You're the case officer, the lead detective, correct?
Yes.
Sort of like the fox guarding the hen house, isn't it?
Objection.
That's sustained, Mr. Jackson. Do you have anything else?
You said the fox guarding the what now? The hen house?
All right, Trooper, you are all set.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Trooper's like, holy shit, I'm done. I don't know. Are you going to be subject to recall, Trooper?
Thank you, jurors.
He's not making eye contact with any of the jurors. He's like, thank you, jurors. And get the hell out of here.
Next witness, Mr. Rowley.
Yes, Your Honor. Commonwealth call Lieutenant Brian Tully to the stand.
Oh, we have not heard from Tully before. Oh, so is Tully a trooper then? I wasn't sure if Tully was trooper or Tully was Canton PD. Oh boy. I'm sure everyone's like, thank God that's over. Oh man. That was good for the defense though. Okay, so Trooper Proctor done. Lieutenant Tully. Direct. Oh, geez. Why is that font size so tiny? Let me make it a little bit bigger.
Step up.
Hi, Pam. Oh, did she give him a nasty look? Oh, I didn't notice that. I was too busy looking at him doing the walk of shame out of there.
I do. Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Tully, are you a professional? You're going to be a letdown.
And explain to the...
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
Brian Tully, Tully,
And how are you employed, sir?
with Massachusetts State Police.
And how long have you been a member of the state police?
18 years.
And what rank or assignment do you currently have with the Mass State Police?
The rank I hold is Detective Lieutenant, and my current role is the Unit Commander for the Norfolk State Police Detective Unit.
And now, how long have you been, let me ask you first as far as, how long have you been lieutenant of the state police?
I was a first lieutenant in 2021, and then I attained the rank of Detective Lieutenant later in 2021.
And with reference to your current unit, how long have you been a member of that?
I've been with the Norfolk State Police Detective Unit for 12 years.
And prior to and throughout the course of your
I'm going to speed up a tiny bit.
work within the detective units, the Norfolk DA's Office of the State Police, what, if any, specialized training have you received and or given in regard to investigations and how they're done?
For the first 10 years as the rank of Trooper and Sergeant, I was on the homicide section of the unit. When first entering the unit, I received instruction on how to conduct homicide and death investigations. In addition to that, I attended over 200 hours of specialized training in the use of cell phones and cell phone technology in the furtherance of criminal investigation.
Is he one of the supervisors? I know Buchanan is one of the supervisors. Is he the other one?
Further on, I have now been an instructor about cell phones and cell phone technology in criminal investigations. I've taught death investigation classes around the Commonwealth, and as well as search and seizure law in Massachusetts.
Now, if I could ask you just with respect to your units, if you could explain to the jury sort of what is the role and what does your unit do with respect to death investigations within Norfolk County?
So each district attorney's office has a state police detective unit assigned to it. So Mass General Law, Section 38, Section 4 says that the district attorney is in charge of all death investigations. So if someone passes away, essentially not in the presence of a doctor or the circumstances that led to their death was outside the presence of medical care, the district attorney is in charge of the investigation or their representative. And so each DA has a state police detective unit assigned to them to act as their representative. In certain jurisdictions like Boston, Worcester, and Springfield, the DAs in those counties have said that those local departments can be their representatives, but throughout the Commonwealth, the state police is the DA's representative in those death investigations.
Now, as far as assignments go, or as far as how is it that, well, as far as how an investigation is run, how is it that a call comes in? If you could take the jury through sort of from the time the call comes in, how that investigation is.
I'll talk in a typical state. Oftentimes, someone passes away, again, not in the presence of a doctor, gets found by somebody, a loved one, a friend, a passerby. They call 911, which gets routed to the local police, who respond and come to learn that someone has passed away in the circumstance. That police department will then call the troop headquarters.
Yeah, they don't even talk about what Karen Reed said in her interview. Because I want to know, how did she contradict herself? That's what he said, right? Verbatim, that she was contradicting herself, or she was giving different stories or some shit like that.
Invited into a large living room area. Miss Reed is seated on a couch, and her parents, William and Janet, are present for the conversation and kind of standing off to the side.
And that conversation goes on for approximately how long?
Approximately half hour, 40 minutes.
And when you terminate that conversation, you come back outside of the home, is that correct?
That's it. That's why I had no notes on it. Because I was like, wait, did I not write notes on what they talked about? I mean, if he's going to say that, like, oh, you know, she was contradicting herself, like, please tell us how. What was she saying?
On the state police is cut up in different troops by geographic location.
I thought that it's considered, like, he's allowed to say it because she's the one who's, like, the defendant in this case, right? If it was, like, someone else and, like, okay, you can't really say what other people said unless you're just trying to use it not for the fact of the matter, but just to give people context. But this is the Karen Reed trial, and I think we're allowed to talk about what Karen Reed said.
Each troop duty lieutenant would have a list of who the on-call person is for the state police detective unit of jurisdiction. They would then call that trooper or sergeant directly to inform them that there's a death in a certain community and give them a telephone number to contact somebody who's directly on scene to get more information.
Now, as far as your role as sort of the supervisor or the lieutenant in charge of the unit, can you describe to the jury sort of what your role is in regard to those investigations?
So within the detective unit, we have the homicide section, a narcotics section, does narcotics investigations, and a special investigation section. So specific to the homicide section, there are certain levels of supervision. We have a sergeant assigned to the homicide section. I have an executive officer who's a lieutenant, and then me. So multiple levels of supervision specific to any of the sections, including the homicide section.
Now, turning your attention to January 29th, 2022, at some point did you become aware in the morning with regard to a death within the town of Canton?
Yes.
And what, if any, when did you become aware and how did you become aware initially of what had transpired?
Shortly after 7 a.m. that date, I received a call from Sergeant Yuri Buchanan informing me that a person by the name of
Hey, how's it going, Morden? How are you doing today? Hello, hello.
John O'Keefe was found unresponsive in Canton. He was transported to Good Samaritan Hospital, where it was expected he was not to survive. Normally, I would not get a call like that, but I learned that Mr. O'Keefe was an active Boston police officer. Sergeant Buchanan wanted to make me aware of it at that point.
And so then what happened from there as far as your unit's involved?
So as we learned more information about what was found on scene by the Canton Police Department, Trooper Proctor, who was the on-call trooper that day on the schedule, and Sergeant Buchanan responded to Canton Police to begin the investigation, and they would keep me updated as they learned more information.
Now, as far as your unit is concerned, what, if any, role does your unit have, or what, if any, jurisdiction does your unit have with relation to any kind of death, whether it be homicide, suicide, unattended death, within the confines of Norfolk County?
We have exclusive jurisdiction by law, but the law also suggests that we need to work with the local police departments as well.
And so how is it that typically in a typical investigation that your unit would work in conjunction with the local police departments in relation to a death investigation?
That's what you meant, the number of the LX. So you're talking about like the LX bumper that sticks out further than the taillights do. Yeah, so I wonder if Mr. Lawley is going to have someone do that. Like, okay, so like here's Karen Reed's car backing up into John O'Keefe. Let's see if it lines up, if her taillight could crack and all that shit, right?
Their detective unit would be involved if they have one, and some departments in Norfolk County don't. They would stand by to wait for our arrival. There'd be constant communication between responding trooper and the detective on scene about things that need to be done prior to our arrival, but essentially wait for our guidance on what to do next.
Wait, sorry, gaming stuff really quick. Now, Rebirth is out. Every single complaint touched on the absurd amount of mini games. Aren't all the mini games optional though, and you don't have to do the mini games you don't want to?
And as far as certain investigations go, are there decisions sometimes that are made with regard to your involvement or maybe your unit not being involved in a death investigation?
Yes.
And how are those determinations made? Who makes those determinations?
It falls to either the person who's on call or their supervisor. We don't respond to all of those calls. So a police officer may call and say that a woman in her 80s has passed away in bed overnight. Her primary care doctor has said that she's struggled with cancer or treatment, and that doctor is willing to sign a death certificate. In those circumstances, it's not suspicious. It's not a suicide or a fatal opiate overdose. We would not respond in that case. That would be one that we would decline. In other circumstances, we may get the call and then learn that the person's going to survive, and so we will not respond. We typically will mirror whether the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, if they're involved, then we'll definitely be involved.
Now, referring to that point, as far as the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner is concerned, in any sort of death investigation that your unit is involved in, what, if any, involvement or communication do troopers from your unit or yourself have with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner?
We have constant communication. The law that I cited also says that the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner has exclusive jurisdiction as well to determine the cause and manner of death. So we work closely hand in hand to figure out the circumstances that led to the death.
As far as working close hand in hand with the medical examiner's office, what does that sort of typically entail?
Takes turn of phone calls. We'll call in and speak to the intake person or the on-call doctor to tell them what we've learned or what we're observing. We forward reports in every case to the doctors, so they understand at least what we learned in the first 24 hours. Doctors will often reach back out to us asking for scene photographs, more reports, ask questions. And in instances where it's a suspicious death, we will send an investigator to the autopsy to stand with the doctor to make observations and answer any questions for the doctor.
Now, as far as the determinations that are ultimately come to by the medical examiner, what, if any, role do you or anyone from your unit have with regard to that decision by the medical examiner?
We have
I guess medical examiner's going to come up after this guy testifies?
little to no role outside of providing information.
And as far as the determination specifically, whether it's manner or cause, what, if any, impact does that have with regard to any death investigation that you're doing?
Well, the cause will give us a big incident. So we want to know if the person died of a heart attack or if they died of a gunshot wound. That's big when it comes to then making charging decisions about circumstances. So it's important to learn the cause, and to get the doctor's input on the manner is also helpful.
But as far as the manner, if the manner is found to be undetermined, would that impact what you learned through the rest of the course of your investigation as far as charging goes?
No, that determination by the OCME is often in the early stages of investigation, and as we learn more information, the circumstances can change.
And the determination that is made by the medical examiner, that's strictly from a medical perspective, correct?
Correct.
Now, with regards to January 29, 2022, when this call that is initially received, Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan then essentially respond to the Canton Police Department first, is that correct?
Yes.
And as far as your role as it pertains to this or any other investigation, how much involvement do you have, or how are you sort of apprised of what's going on?
Sergeant Buchanan, in this case, and in typical cases, he's keeping me updated by telephone, so I can supervise from anywhere with my cell phone. He's giving me updates about what he's learning. We will discuss what the next step should be, and that's what transpired over the morning of January 29th.
Now, over the course of the morning of January 29th, over the course of the morning of January 29th, what, if any, conversations did you have with relation to Canton Police Department's involvement or ongoing or further involvement with regard to this investigation?
I had spoken with the acting chief at the time, the current chief, the chief at the time, Kenneth Berkowitz, about the involvement in the Canton Police Department. We talked about the homeowner at 34 Fairview and his relationship to his department. And because of the appearance of a conflict, we had made a decision that the Canton Police was going to take a step back from the investigation and that state police would do the investigation without them.
Now, as far as that appearance of a conflict or step back, as you termed it, what was your understanding at that time as far as what the role of the Canton Police would be?
Really to provide support. So anytime we're in a local community, we need the support of local police. If we're going to start knocking on doors, we want to make sure they're aware or present. They have resources in town, whether it be lights or barriers that we may need to access. So I would define it as a support role.
So that's why they use their Sally Port. That's why they use their interview rooms. That's why some of the people drove by the house and at some point picked up pieces of the taillight. Is that what they're explaining here, I guess? That makes sense.
Back to those conversations you mentioned that you had yourself and with the then current chief, Kenneth Berkowitz. Who, if anyone else, was involved in those conversations?
The district attorney.
That would be Mr. Morrissey, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that abnormal for him to be involved in conversations in regard to the police department and any sort of appearance of conflict?
No, it's not abnormal for him to be involved.
And as far as his involvement in his conversations, as far as you're aware, did they evolve or were they any greater or less than the conversations that you had with Chief Berkowitz?
No, they were the same conversations.
Let me ask you this.
Because I think with the context of like all the other shit that's flying out there, it could look really bad that Canton PD was like still sort of involved, even if it means like providing support. I just was wondering, how did they do things? How did they do things there? So like, let's say, Canton's supposed to recuse himself. Like, are they, what does that mean? Right. I think someone answered it just means that like, oh, you don't like, investigate it. You don't talk to the witnesses, right? But I mean, does that mean you're okay with going to the crime scene and like picking up taillight pieces and stuff like that? Or still using the interview rooms there? Like,
this, Lieutenant, at some point over the course of this case or at some point over the course of this investigation, did you become aware of certain text messages on Trooper Proctor's personal phone?
Yes.
And upon your being made aware of those text communications, what, if anything, did you as a supervisor, what, if anything, did you do?
I had a long discussion with him about the content and nature of them. I expressed my displeasure as unprofessionalism and the content of them, and then I reported up my chain of command.
When? In
this case, or at some point over the course,
They were the same conversations.
Let me ask you this, Lieutenant. At some point over the course of this case, or at some point over the course of this investigation, did you become aware of certain text messages on Trooper Proctor's personal phone?
Yes.
And upon your being made aware of those text communications, what, if anything, did you as a supervisor, what, if anything, did you do?
When?
I had a long discussion with him about the content and nature of them. I expressed my displeasure as unprofessionalism and the content of them, and then I reported up my chain of command.
Was he admonished in any way?
He was by me at that conversation, yes.
Now, sir,
And then what happened?
again, just sort of in general terms, you're familiar with this investigation.
So was Tully not in the group chat? Because I know it was like, I know Proctor was in there, Buchanan was in there, DiCiccio might have been in there, Kakowski might have been in there. I don't know if Tully was in there.
Investigation as you're supervising the unit that was
I might
investigating.
have it in my
correct?
notes.
Yes.
Now, is it typical practice in conducting homicide or death investigations, as far as civilian witnesses are concerned, to seize their personal cell phone?
It's not uncut, it happens. Yes.
And is that a practice that occurs with respect to every single witness in every single case?
No.
And so what are sort of the parameters, or what would be some of the reasons that certain civilian witnesses' cell phones would be seized versus others?
Well, you use the word seize, so when I think of the word seize, I'm thinking in the legal.
Oh, it was Buchanan, so supervisor. John Fanning, I think also a supervisor. DiCiccio, Chris Moore, and Kakowski. So Tully was not in there because we're like, are we going to like Tully or nah?
Context where I think there's probable cause to believe, more likely than not, there's evidence of the crime I'm investigating held within the data of that phone. Sometimes if we believe there's information on the phone, we may ask for consent for that one specific thing or for that one specific reason. But outside of that, unless I have that belief there's data on a phone, I won't ask for consent or seize a phone and pursue a search warrant.
Now, are you aware of certain cell phones that were either seized or granted access via consent in relation to this investigation?
Yes.
And specifically, Mr. O'Keefe's phone was taken into custody, correct?
Yes.
And the defendant's phone was taken into custody on January 29th as well.
Yes.
Now, as far as civilians, there were two civilian witnesses whose phones were given via consent and then extracted, that being a Jennifer McCabe and a Kerry Roberts, correct?
Yes.
And so why was it that Ms. McCabe's phone and Ms. Roberts' phone was taken versus some other witnesses?
They had information relative to the actions of Ms. Reed and the communications with specifically those two individuals on the morning of the 29th. So we wanted to memorialize them and save them.
Now, sir, with respect to your involvement on January 29th, where and when did you sort of leave and become involved in the investigation beyond sort of the supervisor?
Shortly after noontime, we had learned more information that necessitated a broader search. So I had reached out to Lieutenant Kevin O'Hara with the State Police CERT team to assist with processing of a scene. And so since we were going to be processing a scene, it was prudent for me to leave my house, dig out, and drive to Canton.
Sir, with respect to, you mentioned dig out from your house. What were the conditions like around the time that you were leaving?
There's probably 8 to 10 inches at the house, so I had to dig out my driveway and the large snowbank at the end of the driveway that's caused by the plow in order to get a vehicle out and head to Canton.
And where is it first that you were heading to?
I first went to the Canton Police Department to talk to Chief Berkowitz and wait for the arrival of the CERT team, and then to 34 Fairview.
And as far as the CERT team was concerned, if you can explain to the jury sort of the process from your perspective, from your end, as far as activating the CERT
Because that's right. He was with the CERT team when they were looking for the taillight pieces.
January 29th. Where and when did you sort of leave and become involved in the investigation beyond sort of the supervisor?
It's funny. I know he says beyond your supervisor. It sounds like he's saying be honest.
After noontime, we had learned more information that necessitated a broader search. So I had reached out to Lieutenant Kevin O'Hara with the State Police CERT team to assist with processing of a scene. And so since we were going to be processing a scene, it was prudent for me to leave my house, dig out, and drive to Canton.
Sir, with respect to, you mentioned dig out from your house. What were the conditions like around the time that you were leaving?
There's probably
Blizzard.
8 to 10 inches at the house, so I had to dig out my driveway and the large snowbank at the end of the driveway that's caused by the plow in order to get a vehicle out and head to Canton.
And where is it first that you were heading to?
I first went to the Canton Police Department to talk to Chief Berkowitz and wait for the arrival of the CERT team, and then to 34 Fairview.
And as far as the CERT team was concerned, if you can explain to the jury sort of the process from your perspective, from your end, as far as activating the CERT team, what it is that they do and why you had requested.
We work with Lieutenant O'Hara frequently. I called him on a cell phone, and the CERT team is out of a different chain of command. So the State Police is a very paramilitary organization with specific chains of commands with different structures. So I reached out to him and asked for his assistance with this investigation. He had to get further approval of his chain of command, mostly for overtime and to pay the troopers to come out. That would be the way that I would make a formal request to the CERT team.
And so the initial phone call that you make to Lieutenant O'Hara, you don't have the power or the authority to sort of direct him to dispatch his team and go to 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
And so as far as that initial phone call that you made to Lieutenant O'Hara, do you know about what time of day that was?
About 2 in the afternoon.
And what was the purpose of sort of that initial phone call that you made to Lieutenant O'Hara?
To give him a heads up, because it needs to be a conversation up my chain of command. So above me, there's a detective captain and a major. My major needs to really talk to his major to make the formal request. But I wanted Lieutenant O'Hara to be aware of the request was coming so that he could at least start polling his people to see who was available to respond to Canton.
And with respect to the weather, if you could just in general terms describe for the jury sort of what you observed as far as the weather conditions on that.
I observed blizzard-like conditions. It was snowing heavily, windy, low visibility.
John, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm showing you a series of documents. Just ask if you can look those for when finished. And do you recognize those, sir?
I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
They are certified records from the U.S. Department of Commerce out of Asheville, North Carolina, for weather reports from Norwood Memorial Airport, Massachusetts, for the dates of January 2022 and February 2022.
So for the entirety of the month of January 2022 as well as February 2022, correct?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the Norwood Municipal Airport and where it is in relation to the town of Canton?
Yes.
Where is it?
It's the next town over.
And as far as, are you familiar with a Neponset Street in Norwood?
I am.
And does Neponset Street also carry into the town of Canton as well?
Yes.
And with regard to 34 Fairview Road, about how far away is 34 Fairview from Neponset Street?
From the Ponset Street, it's a mile, 2 miles.
Relatively same geographic area as far as the Norwood Municipal Airport and 34 Fairview Road.
Yeah, I would say as the crow flies from 34 Fairview to Norwood Municipal Airport, that's probably 3 miles.
And sir, with regard to the records for you, from your memory of those dates and those times in January and February 2022, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what the weather was like, temperature-wise as well as precipitation?
Yes.
I love that question.
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Come up so you can introduce in a minute.
I'm receiving video.
Well, he's a lot better than the guy that previously testified.
And so, Lieutenant, at some point you respond to 34 Fairview, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you recall about what time it was that you arrived there?
About 5:30 p.m.
And when you arrived there, who, if anyone else, from the state police preceded your arrival?
There was at least 2 members of the CERT team present, including Lieutenant O'Hara.
And if you recall, where were they located in relation to the residence?
They were directly in front of the residence.
Now, as far as their search was concerned, how was a determination made, or who, if anyone, made a determination as far as where they were going to search?
So typically when I work with Lieutenant O'Hara, I kind of give him direction. So in this case specifically, I learned from Sergeant Buchanan that Mr. O'Keefe was found in an area between the flagpole and the fire hydrant. So we concentrated that area, and so I talked to Lieutenant O'Hara that this is going to be our parameters, and he instructed his people how to deploy to that area.
Now, sir, as far as beyond sort of directing as far as an area is concerned, what, if any, other involvement do you typically have when it comes to the CERT team and how they conduct their search?
They're professionals with expertise in that, so essentially I just point them in the direction, and it's up to them to figure out how to deploy it and get the mission done.
And so what, if any, involvement do you have as far as when they begin and how many people are involved, or when they end, or anything like that?
I'll have some consultation with Lieutenant O'Hara, but it's really his call to make.
And as far as this particular search on January 29th, do you know how many members of the CERT team eventually responded and how the search was conducted?
There were 7 members. Most, if not all, had typical snow shovels, and they used those shovels to systematically go through the snowbank that was in front of 34 Fairview within these 2 perimeters.
And over the course of, now as far as where they were searching, can you describe sort of the road conditions as far as snow removal had concerned, or where the precipitation amounts were concentrated with respect to the road? So the road was only plowed really right down the middle. Barely 2 vehicles could get by at a time. The snowbanks on either side of the road were protruding into the road. So that was kind of the snow setup. Our cruisers were just kind of buried in snowbanks a little bit down the road as we excavated this. And, sir, as far as this search was concerned, what, if any, information did you provide to Lieutenant O'Hara as far as items being searched for, or what was he directed to be looking for? There were 2 items specifically. We were looking for potential pieces of a taillight of a vehicle and a shoe. And as far as a shoe and potential pieces of a taillight, where did that information come from, or why were those
I hope Lana doesn't go too long with this guy.
the items that were being relative to the shoe? When Sergeant Buchanan and Trooper Proctor responded to Good Samaritan Hospital and collected the clothing of Mr. O'Keefe, they realized that there was only 1 shoe present at the hospital. They had contacted the Canton EMS and other people who cared for him, and they'd learned that a shoe wasn't removed at the scene, and that when Canton Fire and EMS arrived, Mr. O'Keefe only had 1 shoe on. So it was important to locate that second shoe. Relative to the taillight, we'd gotten information that witnesses stated that Ms. Reed's vehicle had a broken taillight, and so we were looking for evidence of it being broken at that location. And with respect to the search that was conducted by Lieutenant O'Hara and members from the search team, where was that in relation to either the roadway or the front lawn of 34 Fairview? Well, as we were excavating this, or as they were excavating this snowbank in front of it, we realized that the snowbank protruded about 3 feet into the roadway. So as they were moving this first part of the snowbank, we're essentially shoveling the road. And so as they continued on there, they would then hit the curb area. And as far as beyond the curb area, as far as grass or the front lawn, was the CERT team members, from your observations, able to go beyond the curb into the front lawn area? No, they're having difficulty shoveling with plastic snow shovels onto the lawn, from the lawn.
Hi, Yfro.
Your Honor, may I approach with, oh, actually, I'm sorry. Lieutenant Tully, with respect to the CERT team in their search, what, if anything, did you do to document and memorialize their efforts as far as any items that were recovered? I took photographs of items that were eventually found in place and documented them in a report, and they were collected in evidence bags. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
In the place before you. Well, 2, I'm director attention to weapon marked as 111 through 134, just in that I took that afternoon. May I approach this, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, I don't want to labor the point, but if I could just publish just a couple of these exhibits.
Okay.
Up on the screen as Exhibit 111. Yes. And what do you recognize that to be? The front of 34 Fairview Road in Canton and the flagpole I previously mentioned. And if you could, using the laser pointer, just direct your attention to what, if anything, of significance you observed in this exhibit. So this picture was taken to memorialize this piece of red plastic here. And I'm just going to, if I can have Exhibit 114. Again, Lieutenant, you recognize what's up on the screen as Exhibit 114? Yes. And if you could,
We already saw this picture.
using the laser pointer, direct your attention to what, if anything, of significance you observed. It's that same previously mentioned red plastic. The purposes of the multiple photographs, I'll take one as overalls, and as I get closer, I'll take more photographs to get better context. And these photographs of these items, were they taken, the items that you're photographing, were they moved in any way prior to you memorializing them with photographs? Yes, this piece in particular, a CERT team member, as he was removing the snow with the shovel, had picked up this piece of plastic with it. I asked him to place it back where he found it, where it approximately was, so that I could memorialize it in place.
And you can
So
see the
picked up and you asked
shovel
him to put it
dents.
back where he found it, and he did so? Yes. This gentleman, if I could have Exhibit 117. And again, Lieutenant, you recognize what's up on the screen as Exhibit 117? Yes. What do you recognize as? Members of the CERT team doing their excavation of the snowbank. And this gentleman, if I could have Exhibit 120. Again, sir, do you recognize what's up on the screen as Exhibit 120? Yes. And And if you could, using the laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you observed in this
The
photo.
shoe.
A black Nike sneaker with a white sole that was recovered in the snowbank.
And at some point subsequent to this, what, if any, comparison did you do visually with the sneaker that you observed in this photograph with respect to the sneaker that was recovered from the Good Samaritan by Trooper Proctor and Sergeant McCann?
I wish they picked up the sneaker and took a picture of what was underneath it.
They matched both in make and model, size. The shoe that was recovered by the troopers at the hospital was a right sneaker. This one found was the left, or a left.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 127. And again, sir, do you recognize what's up there as 127?
Yes.
And if you could, using the laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you observed in that photo.
A clear piece of plastic.
Now, with respect to this clear piece of plastic, what, if anything, did you observe or did you note of significance as far as the surface of that particular piece of clear plastic?
I noticed that it's curvature in shape, and there are raised dimples, for lack of a better term, that were along the outside of this piece of plastic, or on one side of it.
Now,
Is that a tail light piece, though? The little dimples right there?
Ms. Gilman, if I could have last.
Right? It looks... doesn't look like a tail light piece.
From this group, Exhibit 131.
Maybe.
And again, Lieutenant, do you recognize what's up on the screen as Exhibit 131?
Yes.
What do you recognize that?
That is a photograph that I took at 34 Fairview that depicts a red piece of plastic.
Next time I see an Alex in the parking lot, I'll take a closer picture.
Ms. Gilman, you can take that down.
Of the car.
Photograph.
Brought back to our offices to be secured.
And if you could, as far as the evidence sort of system is conducted with regard to this case and other cases and investigations within your unit, can you explain to the jury that process of sort of when an item is seen or an item of evidentiary value is seized, what happens?
First, to provide context, by policy, I am the evidence officer for the unit, and I have assistant evidence officers who assist me in the caretaking of the evidence. So we'll use this particular instance where evidence is collected at a scene, it's memorialized in place, placed in, if it's the right shape and the right condition, in a paper bag with some notes placed on the outside of the bag, transported to our office where it's secured either in a temporary locker or the permanent evidence area.
And as far as when it's taken into custody and put into a bag, what is sort of the protocol or policies with regard to how that bag is marked or what is done with that bag once you have the item contained there?
There's certain piece of information that will typically go in the bag, the name of the person who is picking the evidence up, put in the bag, the date, time, location, a brief description of the evidence contained in the bag. It will then be taped, and initials will be placed on the tape to
Oh, and remember, Proctor didn't know anything about an evidence log.
memorialize who did the taping and the date in which the taping occurred.
And as far as the supervisor, as far as evidence is concerned, you mentioned that there are some evidence officers who are assistants to you as the actual evidence officer.
Yes.
And at this time, January 29, 2022, who were those evidence officers within your unit?
Relative to the homicide section, it was Trooper Jeff Kotkowski and Trooper David DeChico.
Now, with respect to the evidence storage at your office, can you explain to the jury sort of how that's managed, where it is, and how items are checked in to evidence once they're sent?
Is there evidence
We have
log?
an evidence tracking system. So as evidence comes in, we place it into the system. A label will be created and placed on the outside with the case number and an item number specific to that bag. It will be placed into the evidence room, which is locked in 2 different methods and has an alarm code pad, and you need your ID pass to swipe in order to enter. And only certain members of the unit have access and know the code to the alarm, me obviously being the one and the 2 assistant evidence officers. And that's subject to inspection by the state police frequently.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but at this time, it's essentially yourself, Trooper DeChico, Trooper Kotkowski, who had access to that evidence storage area.
Yes.
Now, with respect to the remainder of the troopers within your unit, would they have access to that same evidence storage area?
No.
Now, with respect to your unit at this time, late January of 2022, how many troopers were in your unit or under your supervision in the second unit at that time?
There were 13 under my supervision for the unit as a whole. Specific to the homicide section, there were 4 troopers and 1 sergeant.
And that number, as far as 4 troopers and 1 sergeant.
New witness. Doing much better. Doing much better than the previous witness.
Is that sort of a typical number, a low number, high number?
Historically, for Norfolk, that was a low number. We have since had more transfers come
Seems to be a normal guy.
into the unit.
How many do you supervise within the homicide unit at this point?
1 sergeant and 7 troopers.
Now, with respect to the evidence storage area, is there sort of a temporary versus a...
Because that character's been laying out there before, John. They had someone testify who took all the taillight pieces and she put it all back together. When they went through each bag and each of the taillight piece, that's when I kind of like tuned out a little bit because I was like, okay, they're just putting it together.
A permanent storage area contained within that.
Actually, hold on. I'll take a look at the picture because they put it back together. I wonder where the richest one came from.
locked and coded storage area?
Yes.
And can you describe sort of the difference between the two and how things are managed by either you or your assistants with regard to evidence within the locked storage?
So because only essentially 3 people have access to the permanent storage area, if a member collects evidence and brings it back to the office and does not have access to the main storage area, we have another temporary storage area that is allowed by policy where they can then secure the evidence. The next available time, the person who has access to the main room will come in and transport that piece of evidence from the temporary area to the permanent area.
As far as that transportation or transmission from the temporary area to the permanent area,
Yeah, I can't tell. The picture sucks. Like, why wouldn't you take multiple angles of this fucking taillight? Why is there just one angle?
what, if any, sort of documentation is generated in regard to into that?
There's no notation from one location to the other as allowed by policy.
And as far as when items are seized and when their labels are sort of printed in relation to those items, is that always done sort of simultaneously when the item comes in, or how is that typically done timely?
Well, same with the label printing system. So only the evidence officers have the ability to create the labels and put it into the system. So you need them to create the label. So if a member
Oh, okay. What about the log, though?
come in and transport that piece of evidence from the temporary area to the permanent area.
As far as that transportation or transmission from the temporary area to the permanent area, what, if any, sort of documentation is generated in regard to into that?
There's no notation from one location to the other as allowed by policy.
And as far as when items are seized and when their labels are sort of printed in relation to those items, is that always done sort of simultaneously when the item comes in, or how is that typically done timely?
Well, same with the label printing system. So only the evidence officers have the ability to create the labels and put it into the system. So you need them to create the label. So if a member comes in, doesn't have access to that system, place it in temporary storage area at the next available opportunity for an evidence officer or assistant evidence officer to arrive, know that there's evidence there and process it, place a label on it, and stick it in the permanent storage area.
Now, with respect to those items that you recovered from 34 Fairview Road at the roadway in front of it, where were those items located with respect?
So who was the one that bagged the clothes? And it seems like it was bagged 6 days after they left it out to dry out. How did that part work?
To each other?
They were, in total, within a 5-foot area. So if you're looking at the house, from right to left was how they were found. First was that first picture you displayed, which was the red piece of plastic. About 3 feet from that was the Nike sneaker. About 1 or 2 feet to the left of that was the clear plastic, and just next to that was another piece of red plastic along the curb of the road.
And as far as those items that were recovered and bagged and placed in evidence on January 29th, did you have occasion to bring those items with you to court today?
Yes.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission,
You run faster when your hair is shaved. Gotta chase after them suspects, you know? Okay. Shoe?
Your Honor, the Commonwealth seeks to introduce in the minutes the next exhibit.
Exhibit 5.
Back, sir.
Yes.
What do you recognize those?
The bags that contained the red and clear plastic pieces that were recovered from the roadway in front of 34 Fairview Road.
And sir, if you could, just with respect to each of those bags, read what is listed as a description on the outside of the bag to the jury.
The description on this first one is pieces of clear hard plastic tail light cover. Location 34 Fairview Road, Canton.
And the second, please.
The description is pieces of red hard plastic tail light cover. Location 34 Fairview Road, Canton.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask that the witness be allowed to open each of those bags and display the items to the jury.
Okay.
And sir, if I could ask you to start with the red plastic.
A hydroplane, a lot easier too, more aerodynamic. Everyone knows you shave your head, you automatically gain Professor X powers. Also, if you ever get in a cat fight, ain't nobody gonna be pulling your hairs out.
I'll come up to introduce and admit those as the next exhibit.
All right, Mr. Jackson, they're coming in.
About 5:30.
And had yourself or any members of your unit, to your knowledge, been at 34 Fairview at any point in time prior to your arrival there that day?
No.
I'll allow it as to whether he knows whether they were or not. No.
And about how long was it that you were on scene at 34 Fairview that day?
About an hour.
Now, with respect to when these items were found, do you know approximately what time the first item was located by a member of the search team?
Yes.
And what time was that?
5:45.
Now, with respect to at any point in time that you were on scene at 34 Fairview,
5:45, 15 minutes after Proctor arrived at Canton PD.
Fairview Road on January 29th, 2022, was either Trooper Proctor or Sergeant Mechanic on scene at 34 Fairview while you were there?
No.
Anyone else arrive?
With respect to around that time, as a supervisor, were you aware where they were or their location at that time?
Yes.
And where was that?
They were following a tow truck that was towing Miss Reed's vehicle from Dayton to Canton.
Now, with respect to the vehicle and/or the pieces of red and clear plastic that were found by the CERT team at 34 Fairview Road on January 29th, what, if any, conversation did you have with respect to Lieutenant O'Hara in regard to the vehicle and sort of the damage on it?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
We wanted to know what we were looking for. Specifically, Lieutenant O'Hara wanted to know what are we looking for and what's the scope of the items we're looking for. So we had discussion about how much taillight we believe was missing from Miss Reed's vehicle, so that as we go along, we would know if we had it enough, or we had it all, I should say.
And so with respect to that, what, if anything, were you able to share with Lieutenant O'Hara with respect to Miss Reed's vehicle at that particular time?
I didn't have much information because it was still on a tow truck or being loaded up into the Canton Police Department at that time, so I didn't have any actual knowledge of how much taillight we're looking for.
And prior to you leaving from the scene at 34 Fairview Road, along with the CERT team on that date of January 29th, even at that time, did you know the full extent or how much taillight you were looking for at that time?
No.
Now, sir, if I could ask you just to, with the court's permission, Your Honor, maybe remove the items from that second
Yes.
bag of form.
So I guess the person who reconstructed the taillight took the pieces apart and then just bagged them as how they were before. Doesn't sound fun. Imagine putting a puzzle together and then having to take it apart. Ooh.
Lieutenant, from the two items that you have before you in your hand, you had referenced one of those clear pieces having some sort of stippling or raised surface.
Yeah, what is the stippling? What are the ridges? Hello,
Is on it, is that
Dwizzle.
correct?
Yes.
And if you could just with your finger or just in some way delineate to the jury where you observe that to be.
So you can see it as you look through it. You can see almost bubbling of it. And as you run your finger along, you can feel indentations along there, as well as the ridges that are along the top end here that appear on both pieces.
Lieutenant, if you could, you can place those items back in the bag.
No objection.
Your Honor, given the time and given where I
Why
am,
don't you come to side? I would say this.
Stippling. Court date's almost over.
Please let us know. We'll see you. I should find out.
Yes, sir.
Leaving your notebooks on your chin. All right, jury out. Jury follow.
Oh, notebooks. They have their notebooks. That answers your question. They can take notes. Portion of a what now?
also he says there's a lot of items. The only connection.
People in the courtroom. God, those chairs look so uncomfortable.
Yes.
The chairs, the bench, like, oh, my back and everything would just be miserable. So when we got to Proctor's testimony, we got towards the part where they were talking about the Sally Port. I'm going to rewind it back a little bit and jump to some other pieces that stood out to me. We're going to be like kind of all over the place. Oh, gosh. So Proctor is done testifying and he's like, phew. What, is he off the hook? No. There's some investigation going on with him right now, and we'll see what happened with Mr. Proctor. Take a shot every time you see a bald guy. Yeah, a lot of bald guys in the courtroom. Oh boy. Okay, so Proctor, we're not gonna get into like all the text messages. Y'all know they were bad. Jackson goes over some of the text messages again, the one that we went over with Mr. Lawley.
We knew there was some significant injuries to Mr. O'Keefe. And we're still figuring out how those injuries occurred.
Well, you just testified. Initially, we didn't know what we had.
Right.
But 16 hours after the fact, you wrote the following sentence. That's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedics. Correct?
Correct.
So initially, you did think you knew what you had. A physical altercation leading to a death. Correct?
Correct.
So when you just said, initially we didn't know what we had, that wasn't quite true. You did at least have an idea of what you thought you had. Correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
I think the other officer said that he thought it was an altercation because he thought Karen and John got an altercation. Maybe she threw the glass at him. I think that's what the other officer said.
All right.
And then it was like a mix between like, oh, was it thrown in his face or was it thrown in the back of his head?
You were aware, initially, that John O'Keefe had suffered a 2-inch laceration to the back of his head, correct?
Yes.
That resulted in a skull fracture, correct?
Correct.
He had a laceration over his right eye, small laceration just under the eyebrow, correct?
I think he had like multiple skull fractures,
Yes.
what I heard.
Had a laceration on his nose, is that right?
Correct.
He had patterned scratches on his right arm, abrasions, scratches, correct?
Yes.
And he had no injuries below the neck.
Not that I observed, sir.
Not a single broken bone, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single fracture, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single bruise below the neck, right?
Now this part is interesting, but it's like, how many people have you seen get hit by a car at X speed, right?
Not that I observed.
Looks a lot like a physical altercation, doesn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Bird writes, Bear, let's focus, correct?
Yes.
Who's Bear?
That's another nickname I have.
0095
After this, he definitely has way more nicknames now.
writes, what does she waffled him mean? And then Bird writes, what's the story, correct?
Correct.
And you wrote, she hit him with her car. Is that right?
Yes.
Have you ever seen, in your experience, have you ever seen a pedestrian who's hit by a 6,000-pound car with no bruises? Ever?
The pedestrian strikes I've seen have been at high speeds,
And that's
60
enough
plus.
for a person out to shoot, right?
60 plus miles per hour. So I can't recall off right now off the top of my head as far as injuries in the past pedestrian strikes I've attended.
Okay. So someone, you indicated on Monday, under examination by Mr. Lally, you've seen a shoe missing.
Correct.
Pedestrian strikes, correct?
Yes.
Those are high speed, extremely high speed incidents, correct?
Yes.
60 plus miles an hour, right?
I can't recall all the pedestrian strikes I've been to as far as
I don't know. I have to hear an expert about that one.
miles per hour the vehicle is traveling.
Proctor, let me ask you the question again. Have you ever, yes or no, have you ever, in your experience, seen a vehicle pedestrian incident in which the pedestrian has no bruises?
Objection.
Have you seen that?
I can't recall.
Because where Jackson is getting at is, okay, well, was he hit at a high speed? Because if it was at a high speed, then it would make sense why his shoe would be knocked out. But if it was at high speed, why didn't it have any broken bones, right? That's where Jackson is getting at. But he's saying that, like, oh, you know, the people that I've seen in these like hit and runs or whatever it was like probably 60 miles an hour and plus. So I don't know what it would look like if it was like 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour.
Next question.
After you wrote, she hit him with her car, 5051 writes, oh, Jesus. And Bird writes, okay, that's fucked up, correct?
Correct.
And then you wrote what?
Intentional or not?
Intentional or not? Is that right?
Yes.
Your words.
Correct.
0095 then chimes in, gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him? Question mark. Correct?
Correct.
And you wrote what?
That's another animal we won't be able to prove.
That's another animal we won't be able to prove. Correct?
Correct.
Trooper Proctor, you knew that there were going to be things in this case, even 16 hours into this, that you just admitted you would have zero proof of. Correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Did you mean by that statement that this was one
I
of
don't know. Try drawing a summoning circle. Maybe she'll hear. Maybe she'll respond to our call.
several things that you knew we would not be able to prove?
That statement, that's another animal we won't be able to prove, references the intentional or not part.
You didn't care at that point when you wrote that, you didn't care what you could or could not prove, did you?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Isn't that what you meant?
No.
You had a narrative that you had developed, and you would pursue it.
I think at that point in time, if we go off with what he's saying, he wasn't sure if it was like an accident or she did it like on purpose. All right, I want to get to the other part.
Do you have that in front of you, sir?
Yes.
And this would be page 20. Did you? The fact that you had a subsequent phone call with Julie Albert on your personal cell phone.
I did not.
Let's turn to tab 5 one more time.
I think this
Would
is
you
him
turn to
saying
page
he didn't really have a relationship with the Albert family.
2677. In fact, you responded to that with a ha, 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 ha. 4 ha's, right? And then why, question mark, correct?
Correct.
Then you responded, it was fine, just a quick convo, correct?
Yes.
You were literally reporting back to your sister about the progress of your investigation in a homicide investigation, weren't you?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Were you reporting your progress
Oh,
to
yeah, this seems problematic as well.
your sister about your investigation?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Okay.
Because remember, his sister is pretty close with them.
The conversation, the formal interview went fine, it was just a quick convo, correct?
In response to my sister indicating Julie was nervous, that's why I told her it was fine.
Trooper Proctor, Julie and Chris Albert were not actually treated like witnesses in a murder investigation. They were treated more like friends, wouldn't you agree?
Objection.
Is that true?
Absolutely not.
Hey, Mom, how's it going?
On important advancements during the course of your investigation into this case, did you not periodically?
I made her aware of newsworthy stuff.
That started.
Yeah, because I'm sure that he trusted his sister enough to not leak things, but like I feel like you just want to be sure. You want to make sure because like they were so close to each other. Like, why would you do this?
As early as January 29th, 2022.
True. Oh my God! If only Becky lived in Canton, she can give us all the deets.
Is that right?
Don't know the exact date or content.
Well, the day of the incident, you began letting her know that you were involved, that you had been assigned, what the status was,
Yes.
the nature of the case.
Correct.
It was a homicide, correct?
Yes. Julie and Chris were out earlier in the evening.
So you mentioned the Alberts, correct?
Julie and Chris, yes.
You also mentioned the McCabe's too, didn't you? At some point.
Yes.
Yeah. At 2668, Your Honor, that's the page that I'm referring to. Homicide, correct?
You're on the right page.
You were describing to your sister the nature of the case that you are now assigned. Is that right?
Correct.
She wrote the Canton thing is a homicide, and you wrote don't say a word to anyone, correct?
Correct.
And then she wrote of course not. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you wrote what?
In the very least, it's suspicious.
In the very least, it's suspicious, correct?
Correct.
So at that time, at least at the time that you wrote that text on the 29th at 3:05 in the afternoon.
Or maybe if you want someone to vent to, just don't put in text messages.
Data, correct?
In the evening, the other females were there from the start.
Hold on.
At the time that you wrote your report, the formal report, this one.
Data.
Is that right?
Yes.
Lucky Loughran? You testified under oath on April 21st, 2022 in the state court grand jury proceeding that no snowplow traveled down Fairview Road on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
Why did you say that, Trooper Proctor?
That was based off interviews with Mr. Trotter that the plows weren't out until they met up at 2:30, and then it was my understanding they were focusing on the main roadways.
You're aware that Michael Trotter testified in this case?
Okay.
Were you aware or not?
No.
Okay.
What? You were hit by a speeding pickup truck when you were 6 years old? Holy fuck. What happened? What were your injuries? Jesus, that sounds so scary.
You did, Michael Trotter, did you not?
Yes.
What did you miss? I don't even know where to start. Proctor, of course, huge disaster on the stand, cross-examination, redirect, Lolly, you know, he had to work with what he could. And then we had to listen to, we're currently on another testimony from a different trooper who seems way better. Way better. Seems like a really chill guy. Seems like a normal person. And no, he wasn't part of the group chat DMs.
And isn't it true that Michael Trotter told you that, in fact, Brian Loughran was plowing 34 Fairview that morning?
Objection.
Is that what he told you?
I don't recall that statement from him.
You got hit by an ARC-7, you lost a shoe. When did this happen? Why are people getting hit by cars? Oh my God. Was the driver just not paying attention? Was this in a parking lot? That's so
Michael
scary.
Trotter testified that that's what he told you. Do you have any quarrel with that?
Objection.
That's his excuse.
In reality, Trooper Proctor, you did not want to speak to anybody in the weeks and months following this incident who didn't fit your narrative, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that true?
That's simply not true. Absolutely not.
Certainly you didn't want to talk to anybody who could say that there was no body on the lawn at 2:30 in the morning. Is that right?
No, it's not true.
Are you aware that Lucky Loughran, in fact, did report that there was no body on
Objection,
the
Your
lawn?
Honor.
So the objection sustained. I'm going to strike that.
Did you include anything in your investigative report throughout the entire time you've been in charge of this investigation about Lucky Loughran and his observations?
Not until Sergeant Buchanan and I interviewed him.
And that was when?
I can't recall the exact date.
And that was after the defense brought it to your attention, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Not true?
Correct.
Are you still the case agent in charge of this case?
I wonder, how did the defense find the snowplower guy? Did they get in touch with the guy who scheduled the snowplowing schedule stuff? And it was like, okay, who snowplowed this week? Who snowplowed that week? Or sorry, that week, that day, whatever.
Yes.
Oh my God. You didn't have any broken bones, but I was like flung into the air. Your brain got bruised and swollen up. Oh my God. That sounds horrible. Wait, you said you were 6 years old? Oh my goodness. When I was 15 and was getting off the bus after work, she almost like didn't stop. Oh.
As a lead investigator and the case agent, you're aware it's also your responsibility and your obligation to investigate
Oh, she came back? She came back and said, oh, you're okay, went on her way?
all potential individuals, right? All potential suspects.
Yes.
You're obligated to investigate anybody who would have a motive, a means, and an opportunity to commit the crime or the offense, correct?
Correct.
Motive includes anything from financial gain to could just be revenge, right?
Yes.
Could be a lover's quarrel, correct?
Okay, let's see. There's another part I want to jump around to. Mr. Higgins, they talk about he's a big dude. Let's see. I talk about the medical stuff with Karen Reed. I wanted to timestamp this, but when you're doing the live, we're watching the live stream, the timestamp moves because the stream is getting longer and longer and longer. So it's hard for me to timestamp. I wish there was a way to indicate in the courtroom what time it is. Like, I wish there was like a clock at the bottom or something. That'd be so much more easier.
That there was.
I was pretty bruised up. Also got glandular fever, and then the company got taken over by a bank, and I lost my job. Oh, it's horrible.
Alarm.com surveillance footage of the area from which the car was seized. Correct?
Correct.
The fact of the matter is, that was false. The car was not seized at 5:30, was it?
4:16 p.m.
Right.
Oh, I think this is before they got to the salad port, so I might have forwarded way too much. I want to get to the part where he was talking to him and Brad Higgins.
A collaborative effort within the office, so we bounce ideas off each other as far as who's what.
Testify that that's what he told you. Do you have any quarrel with that?
Objection.
That's excused.
Correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that true?
That's simply not true. Absolutely not.
Certainly didn't want to talk to anybody who could say that there was no body on the lawn at 2:30 in the morning. Is that right?
No,
Oh, this is the tow truck driver guy.
absolutely not.
Well, you knew he had this flirtatious relationship with Karen Reed. Is that right?
Yes.
You became aware that he ignored, you saw the text messages, you became aware that Karen Reed actually ignored text messages from Mr. Higgins while at the Waterfall Bar and Grill with John O'Keefe, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes.
You were aware that at 12:20 a.m., Brian Higgins sent a text message to John O'Keefe, coaxing him to 34 Fairview, correct?
Objection.
I'll see you at sidebar on this.
I think everyone was just being really immature. I think Higgins was being really immature. He knew what he was doing behind John's back, okay? Texting Karen back and forth, and then he wanted to text John like, "Oh, so you and your girl, you got y'all coming?" Ugh, so dumb. Okay, they're talking about the stance fight, which I don't really care for. More text messages, calling Karen a whack job. Oh, this is the medical examiner stuff.
Sustained.
When you referred to, she's a whack job, were you referring to Dr. Scortibello?
I don't recall.
Were you displeased with the undetermined finding instead of homicide finding because that was an obstacle in your investigation?
Objection.
You can break that down.
Were you displeased about the undetermined finding?
No.
Would you have rather had a determined finding that it was homicide?
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter to my office. We still investigate the same exact way if it's ruled determined, undetermined, or homicide.
Well, then why would you say, of course it's undetermined? She was a whack job, sarcastically.
There's a sarcastic remark I made to Trooper DeChico.
Right, which sort of suggests displeasure rather than the reverse, correct?
Objection.
You'd agree that it's extremely unusual for the manner of death to be undetermined in a homicide investigation you've worked on, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. How many murder cases in the history of your career have you worked on in which the medical examiner made the determination that the manner of death could not be determined?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
I wouldn't feel comfortable putting a number on it. It's not a lot. I couldn't ballpark it for you, but I know it's not a lot.
Well, Trooper Proctor, you were asked this exact question in February of 2024 at another proceeding.
Mm-hmm.
And you indicated that you had never seen it in your entire career, correct?
I'm trying to run.
Well, you were asked the question, so first, what do you mean by, of course it's undetermined? And your answer was, I said it at the time. It was kind of like, not like figuratively, of course. It's, and of course, like I had never really seen that before in a homicide, end quote. Correct?
Yes.
Your statement in February of 2024, under oath, was you'd literally never seen that in any homicide you've ever worked, right?
Yes.
After she reached that conclusion, you discussed this with one of your colleagues about how you tried to put pressure on her to change her or alter her opinion, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that what you did?
Pressure? Absolutely not.
Let's turn to tab 12.
What's this for identification? Is it
Karen allowed her attorneys to bring up her bowel issues just to gain sympathy from the jury. Was so obvious. Oh yeah, definitely. But I think that was good bonus points for her. I think it was good they did that.
I'm gonna strike that. You can get this in, but do it the right way, Mr. Jackson.
Right here, right?
You followed that up with the phrase leaks poo, didn't you?
I did.
Again, another reference to Ms. Reed's medical issues and medical conditions, correct?
Correct.
Specifically focused on her anus, correct?
In reference, yes.
Oh God, the transcript for this day.
Were you aware at the time that you wrote this that Miss Reed had suffered a colectomy surgery, very serious surgery?
That was not, sir, no.
Were you aware that she had had 10 surgeries in 18 months, several years prior? 10.
What a way to bring it in.
I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that she had serious medical issues, gastrointestinal medical issues, that she suffered, that she was a victim of for years? Did you know that?
Objection.
Sustained.
But you decided that you're going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy.
1 second, sir. I'm sorry. I'll say.
I'm sorry. You decided that you were going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy as a balloon knot, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Oh, God.
At this point, Trooper Proctor, Miss Reed was just reduced to a punchline to you, wasn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, you weren't done yet. This chat doesn't end yet, does it?
No, sir.
Let's skip to 2543. On the same date, February 2nd, 2022, about 4:15 p.m., a person by the name of Whitey wrote, "What are you guzzling on?" Correct?
They're saying this explains Karen wanting a different room at their trip. Oh, you're talking about the Aruba trip, right? Yeah, because when they were talking to one of the sisters who organized the trip, they said that Karen wanted like her own room, separate from the children, I think. So maybe that could be interpreted as a jury, like, oh, look at this woman. She's so high maintenance. Like, you know, she was having issues with John. She didn't even want to stay with like the nephew and the niece. Like, that could be interpreted that way. It definitely sounded like the cops were mad at the ME that they didn't want to say what the cops wanted them to. Yeah, because he called her like a whack job. And then I think when they asked him, like, oh, did you mean to call her a whack job? He's like, I don't remember. It's like, no, you were calling her a whack job too.
Yes.
And you wrote nothing, writing a warrant. Is that right?
Correct.
Whitey then shares some sort of a video, correct?
Yes.
You remember that video being of the 1980s band Warrant?
I don't recall the video he sent.
0095 laughed and then wrote, wait, why does her asshole leak? Correct?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And then what did Doc write in response to that?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained. I'll see it. Sidebar, take that down, please.
In the next exchange that you're looking at, it's fair to say that your high school buddies then continued to discuss Ms. Reed's medical issues, correct?
Objection.
That's sustained. Come on, Mr. Jackson. That isn't what you said you'd ask. Go ahead and ask the question you said you'd ask.
Was there a
Nothing,
continued
Jackson.
discussion that finished on this subject matter?
Yes.
All right, let's go back to this one.
Individuals are related in one way or another, either through marriage or otherwise, to each other, correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And you also interviewed Brian Higgins, is that right?
Yes.
I want to talk for a second about the individuals that you did not immediately choose to interview. Julie Nagel wasn't interviewed until October 2022, correct?
Correct.
That's 7 months after the incident, right?
And that's a good reminder to the jury.
Correct.
Sarah Levinson was not interviewed until October of 2022, also 7 months later, correct?
Correct.
Caitlin Albert was interviewed July 6th, 2023, correct?
Yes.
That's 16 months after the incident. Is that right?
Correct.
Brian Albert Jr., July 6th, 2023, right?
Yes, sir.
Allie McCabe, August of 2023, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's 18 months after the incident, correct?
Correct.
Heather Maxson, she was not interviewed until September 21st, 2023, 17 months later, correct?
Correct.
All right, that's actually, my math is off, that's about 18 months later, is that right?
Correct.
Richard D'Antono, September 2nd, 2023, is that right?
Yes.
So you waited more than 18 months to interview him as well, is that right?
Yes.
And then Brian Loughran, snowplow driver, August 2023, 17 months after the incident, correct?
Correct.
I want to talk for a second about this last individual, Brian Loughran. He also goes by the name Lucky, is that right?
Yes.
Lucky Loughran. You testified under oath on April 21st, 2022 in a state court grand jury proceeding that no snowplow traveled down Fairview Road.
All right, we got to this part. So, and then there was another piece that I wanted to play too, but I want to play this part too.
Officer Mulaney and Seraph.
Page 2592. I'm sorry, Kevin Albert text, okay, so I'll get Mulaney in as well. You interviewing her here? And you respond, yeah, if we can line them up for 1:30 and 2, that would be great, correct?
Yes.
So you were leaving it up to Kevin Albert to contact and coordinate with the witnesses that you intended to interview at Ken P, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Correct.
You then answered anytime in the ballpark. I'm sorry, yes, you answered anytime in the ballpark, then you went on and said from 1:30 on, correct?
Yes.
Kevin Albert then says, okay, sounds good. And then he responds, if you want to interview witnesses in the recorded...
There's a part that I want to find where he tells like I think it was like in the grand jury where it's like, oh, do you have a relationship with the McCabe's and the Alberts? And he's like, no. I'm trying to find that part.
Room here, you're more than welcome. You see that?
I do.
He was referring to an interview room or an interrogation room where there's surreptitious recording devices, correct?
Yes.
That's to help facilitate memorializing interviews that police officers want to take with any witness in a crime, right?
Correct.
That would mean that if you used a recorded room, those recordings would be in the hands of which agency?
That's why we did not use.
See, that's why I wanted to know how did they do things when it came to, okay, so Canton PD, you know, they recused themselves from, you know, participating in the investigation because of possible conflict, right? But the state police says, well, normally, you know, when we work with the local still provides us with support. So I'm like, okay, like what kind of support is typically provided? Like, what are they allowed to do? What are they not allowed to do, right?
Use that recorded room.
I don't know.
But he offered, didn't he?
He offered. We did not use it.
Did you see that as a problem?
That he offered?
Yeah.
No, I don't, sir.
You see that as a problem because he might, I don't know, take some of those interviews and forward them to his brother?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Were you concerned that Kevin Albert was offering to utilize Canton's recording programs, facility, in order to get access to what the witnesses were saying so that he could then forward that or tell his brother?
No.
Never crossed your mind?
Never.
Well, if it never crossed your mind, why didn't you go ahead and use the recording you were?
Typically, don't record our interviews.
That's not
Which I'm like, whoa, so you had a room that does recording and you didn't want to use it? Why not? Oh my Lord, maybe he didn't want to expose how bad he was at investigating this or something. I don't know, like what? Why wouldn't you use the recording room?
you said a second ago. You said the reason we didn't use the recording room was because of the obvious possibility that Kevin Albert and Canton PD could have access to your recordings.
Objection.
Sustained.
Didn't you say that's why we didn't use it?
No.
Your answer, right?
No.
What did you say?
That we didn't use it. You.
When I said, if you made a recording, it would be in the hands of which agency? Obviously Canton PD. And your answer was, that's why we didn't use the recording room, right?
No, I don't recall saying that's why we didn't use the room.
You just said it to a broadcast. It's been 10 minutes, then 4 minutes.
No.
You don't remember that?
Not specifically stated like that.
All right, let me ask you a different way. If you weren't concerned that the interviews could be compromised by Canton PD and Kevin Albert, why didn't you just use the room? It was offered up.
Again, typically we don't record interviews. With a cooperating witness, we just sit down with them, take notes. If it's someone we deem necessary to actually have a recording of, then we'll pursue that option.
Like, why not? You know, just in case. You never know.
Trooper Proctor, after you knew that Canton Police Department was conflicted about the case, you continue to have a very
We didn't have enough space in our storage, you know? Not enough storage space. Couldn't record.
close relationship with yet another Albert, Kevin Albert, correct?
We worked on a cold case together.
So you did have a close personal and professional relationship with Kevin Albert, didn't you?
I'd say it was a professional relationship.
Only professional relationship?
Him and I were members at a gym together, and we worked a cold case together for several months.
Drinking, socializing, maybe?
Once in a while.
Right. So what beyond professional, right?
Yeah, acquaintances.
Drinking acquaintances, right?
On several occasions, yes.
Socializing acquaintances, right?
On several occasions.
So when you told the jury a few minutes ago that you were aware of and knew of but didn't have relationships with 3 Alberts, Julie, Chris, and Colin, not quite true, is it?
Objection.
Sustained.
There's a 4th Albert out there, isn't there?
Kevin
Right.
Albert.
Yes.
But you didn't tell us about that one,
Objection.
I'll allow it.
correct?
I don't consider that a relationship. It's
Well, let's look at that. 5 months into this investigation, in July of 2022, you were actually continuing to socialize with Kevin Albert, weren't you?
yes.
On July 19th, 2022, you and Kevin Albert went out drinking together, didn't you?
Like, his definition of a relationship is, like, really interesting. I feel like you would still try to divulge anything, any sort of interaction you had with them, just be very transparent and just to show, hey, like, this is how it is, right? Instead of saying, oh, no relationship. It's like, well, I mean, I'm not close to them, but I mean, she does watch, you know, she is a babysitter. Well, you know, we're not really close to them, but she's really good friends with my sister. I don't know, just like stuff like that. Like, why not just say it? Hi, Inc. Small town. People are going to find out anyways.
Trooper Proctor, I'm not asking you to look for anything in the binder at this point. I'm asking for your memory.
I don't recall that.
You don't recall the date, or you don't recall,
July 19th, 2022.
you don't recall the drinking?
The date itself, sir.
Why don't we turn to tab 13?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a number or a letter?
We're still in tab 30.
Yes.
Thank you. Trooper Proctor, are you on 2602?
I am.
The fact of the matter, does that refresh your recollection that on July 19th, 2022, you and Kevin Albert have been out drinking together? Left his badge in your cruiser and couldn't find his gun the next morning, right?
Objection.
Overruled.
That's so bad.
I can't speak to any level of intoxication, but I don't recall either of us being intoxicated.
Got it. So, isn't it true that on 7/20, July 20th, 2022, the day after, at 8:39 in the morning, you texted Kevin Albert, quote, "Found your badge in my cruiser this morning," end quote, correct?
Yes.
Then you texted him, "I can leave it in my locker at the gym, drop it off at your station, or leave it in my mailbox," correct?
Correct.
Kevin Albert responds, "My mailbox. Did I take my gun?" And then included a wince face emoji, correct?
Correct.
So the fact of the matter is, you two got so drunk that he couldn't find his badge and had to ask you the next morning where his gun was, right?
Again, I can't speak to any level of intoxication. Whether he just forgot it, I don't know.
I'm not asking you about his BAC, Trooper Proctor. I'm asking, have you seen drunk people before?
Yes.
You've been drunk before.
Yes, I have, sir.
We've all been drunk before, right?
Yes.
Was he drunk? Were you drunk that night?
I don't recall. It was a long time ago.
But he left his badge in your cruiser after a night of drinking. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Which means you were drinking and driving in your cruiser. Right?
From what I remember, we were down the Cape working on the cold case together and stopped for dinner, had a few beers, and then dropped him off.
The next morning, Kevin Albert also texted you at page 2606.
I don't know. Maybe I watched too many movies, but I thought losing your gun was a huge no-no. Like, what if someone gets a hand of it and something happens with it?
Starting with "It's bad." Tell me when you see that.
Okay, I see it.
Publish.
Yes.
Kevin Albert responded, "It's bad!" Exclamation point! Exclamation point! I was hungover for sure today! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Couple tonight to make me feel good. End quote. Correct?
Correct.
You can take that down. Does that refresh your recollection? The two of you had been out drinking the night before. He got so drunk that he couldn't find his badge and couldn't even find his gun.
Yes, it does refresh my memory.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And this is with Brian Alberts. I'm going to change gears. Trooper Proctor, you personally collected John O'Keefe's clothes from the hospital at Good Sam in Brockton, did you not?
I did.
I'd like to... Time you were at Good Sam, you actually had the opportunity, you had the occasion to see Mr.
It just doesn't look good for the jury, given all the shit that has already been flying around back and forth.
O'Keefe in the hospital, correct?
It kind of just adds more to the madness. Like, if it was just like a one-time thing and then there's none of the other bullshit happening, then it's like, okay, well, you know, he had to slip up, whatever, whatever. Like, you know, they're just, you know, they're humans or something like that, right? But there's just too much cloud. I drew this, I think I deleted it already, but I drew this paint thing of like my interpretation of this trial so far. It's like, here's like a sliver of the Karen Reed stuff, and I was trying to figure out whether or not she did it. And here's like a smoke flame of like all the other bullshit that we're trying to sift through in order to figure out, okay, like, let's focus on Karen Reed. So what's up with Karen Reed? She do it? She did it? Like, nah? Like, what's going on here?
Yes.
You also had the occasion...
It's just adding more shit to all the stuff that's already been happening.
...see his clothing in the hospital, correct?
Yes.
That's the clothing that you ultimately gathered, is that right?
Correct.
May I approach you on?
Yes.
Like, I think it's possible that they were both drinking. He was drinking. He had a couple drinks, you know. And then the other one was just probably drunk because maybe he was, he already had like a designated driver.
If you could take a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me if you recognize it.
I do.
That photograph of you. I'm sorry, it's not of you, but you see your legs in that photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and you also see the legs of Mr. O'Keefe on the hospital gurney, correct?
I do.
And you see a pile of clothes there?
Correct.
You want to have this marked and admitted?
Objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Exhibit 568.
568? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Request the court's permission to publish
Okay.
on television screen.
Yes, sir.
Directing your attention to...
I do, yes.
Okay, that appears to be what?
It's
Gray shirt as well?
Yes,
Okay. And those are your legs to the uppermost part of the screen, correct?
I believe.
In the blue pants?
Yes.
And you
I don't think I've seen. Have we seen this yet? Or have they shown the court this yet? I don't think so, right? Let me just.
see to the leftmost portion of the screen, chair.
I do.
See what's on that chair?
My binder.
That's your portfolio?
It is.
Okay. That's something that you carry routinely as you're investigating, during the course of your investigations?
Yes.
You keep your notes and things of that nature?
Yes.
Pens, paper?
Correct.
All right. Let me take that down. You indicated that you took possession of those clothing items
Hey, chat, play nice. Play nice.
from Good Samaritan Hospital, correct?
Y'all can disagree and shit, but play nice.
You bagged them? Bagged, B-A-G-G-E-D, bagged them?
Yes.
And then
Begged.
what did you do with them after that?
We secured them in Sergeant Mechanic's pickup truck.
And then what happened to them after they were secured in his pickup truck?
We traveled to Dighton to Mr. Reed's house.
Once you ultimately got back, I don't want to have to take you through the entire, everybody knows where you went. Sergeant Mechanics already testified. You get back to Canton at some point, correct?
Yes.
Ultimately, were the clothes transported into the your facility?
Yes.
At the DA's office?
Correct.
Okay. What did you do with them after that?
We brought them to the
I'm
processing.
going to ask you what you did, not what we did, what you did.
Yeah, I mean, because David, there's just like so much I don't know. So like, if I'm not familiar with anything, or if I don't have experience in anything, I kind of just leave like, okay, well, maybe this is how things are done there. This is how they do things. Maybe this, maybe that. You know, I'm kind of like, if I don't know, then I'm like more reserved in my judgment. Like for example, like the John O'Keefe injuries, right? Like when I saw pictures, I'm like, oh yeah, looks like he's been in a fight. Because we know what people look like when they've been in fights, or we know what people look like when they, you know, like I've been bitten by a dog before. I'm like, oh yeah, that could look like he was attacked by a dog. But what I don't know how the fuck people look like when they get hit by a car at whatever amount of speed, you know, 20 miles, 30 miles, 50 miles, 60 miles. I don't fucking know what they look like. So that's why I was like, you know, I have seen like what people look like when they're beat up. I've seen what people look like when they get, you know, bitten by a dog, but I don't know what people look like when they get hit by a car. I don't know how, if it's like, you know, like your eyes get all swollen like this. You know, I know what people look like when they get nose jobs. When people get nose jobs, sometimes you do get two black eyes, right? So I don't know. I don't know too much. And there's been a lot of things about this case that I just truly don't fucking know. That's why I'm keeping my mind open and just waiting for, you know, the experts to tell me what the fuck is up. Because I'm not an expert. I don't fucking know, man.
Press your recollection to take a look at your handwritten
But
notes.
what I do know, what I've seen, is that when we've had prosecutors go up there and try their case, I've seen some really good ones, you know, some really convincing ones. With Mr. Lally, I'm just like, huh, okay. This is interesting. All right. Oh boy. I do a little bit more. I do know more than the jury though, because I have read some of the motions written by both sides. I haven't gotten too far. They're both pretty lengthy. I only read like 2 motions so far, one from the defense and then one from the state, because I wanted to know the preview of the defense's experts, what they're going to cover, and then I wanted to know where Mr. Lally was going to, like what Mr. Lally was going to get at when it comes to, you know, how John was hit, hurt, what experts he might call and all that stuff. So I do know a little bit more. But when I was reading Mr. Lally's motions, I'm like, oh, you know, you got a lot of people in here that can, you know, they're going to say some really good things, but why haven't they testified yet? But who knows? You know, sometimes in motions, sometimes you over exaggerate, you misrepresent some things. So I'm like waiting for it to happen in the fucking trial.
Yes, sir.
Lally blew this case. He's a complete joke. Oh. I don't know. I don't know what Lolly's doing. Maybe there might be an explanation to the madness. There might not. At the end of this trial, we might just be like, what the fuck was that? We got nothing. Oh my God, how disappointing. Karen, so what we know so far, Karen does have MS, and that was mentioned in the trial. Today, the defense got in that Karen Reed had, I think, like 10 surgeries within the past 18 months before John O'Keefe was found. That she had like surgery on her colon or something, and she was having like colon issues. That was brought in so far in the trial. But I think it was mentioned that Karen also has Crohn's, but that has been mentioned in the trial so far. Someone in my chat, a couple people mentioned that to me, that she might have Crohn's.
So look, Ben, first, let me just ask you if I refresh your recollection.
Yes, sir.
Are those your notes, your handwritten notes from this, at least from partially from this
Wait, sorry.
investigation?
Yes.
Oh
Does that
God.
reflect your handwritten notes?
Oh God. Sorry. What happened? Did I have this at 2 times speed the entire time? What the fuck?
Emoji, correct?
Correct.
So the fact of the matter is,
Oh, this I already listened to. Okay.
it's based on a conversation that you had with Juliana Nagel on or about October 5th, 2022.
Oh, this. Okay. She has Crohn's disease. So he's going over his handwritten notes.
There you go.
Yes.
This is going to be an accurate representation or accurate copy of your notes for your interview with Juliana Nagel. With course permission, I changed my mind. I would like to have this marked as next.
Introduced into evidence?
Correct.
Is there an objection?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection sustained?
Is it true that in your handwritten notes, you list the following individuals based on Juliana Nagel's conversation with you as being at 34 Fairview? Brian, Juliana, Mary Kent, Emily.
Oh, sorry. I cut it off right at the custody logs. Yes. Okay. Shoot. Let me play this back real quick. I'm sorry. This is the part that I wanted you guys to listen to, the custody logs thing. I'm like, hello? Where are the logs? Here.
The clothing after it was dried out.
So
Them after that.
we brought them to the evidence processing
I'm going to ask you what you did, not what we did, what you did.
Sergeant Buchanan and I brought them to the evidence processing area, laid out butcher paper so the clothes could dry, put them on the, in that area. And then I brought 2 cell phones to Trooper Garino so we could try to attempt to extract the phones.
What did you do with the clothing after it was dried out?
So the next day, Trooper DeChico arrived and brought them into the permanent evidence area where only him and another trooper in my office have access to. So they were secured from that at that point.
So you didn't book them into evidence?
I did not know.
When they're booked into evidence, there's supposed to be a log of that, correct?
I'm sorry?
There's supposed to be a log of that when they're booked into evidence, correct?
Yes.
You're the case officer on the case. One of your responsibilities is to make sure that chain of custody is maintained throughout the entirety of the investigation, all the way up to a courtroom, correct?
Yes.
Where's the log of those items being booked into evidence?
There was a chain of custody from when they entered the
But where's the log? Where's the log?
the DA's office, and then when Trooper DeChico created a label for them, but also put them in a secure facility.
Can you show me where that is?
I'm not the evidence office. I don't have that.
I see. So you didn't bring a log with you of any sort concerning the chain of custody of these items, correct?
No.
Or was it like because it was all done digitally that there was like no... I don't know. Then there would be a digital log, right?
As a matter of fact, the reason you didn't bring that chain of custody log is because none exists. Is that right?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
Does a physical log exist starting from January 29th, 2022 to today?
Yes.
Where's that physical log, sir?
I'm not an evidence officer, so I don't know how that. Yeah, so I don't know how that's generated.
Right. So as a case officer, you have no idea where an evidence log is that has something as insignificant as, I don't know, the victim's clothing.
Objection.
Sustained.
The fact of the matter is, the evidence log attendant to this case regarding those clothing items starts on March 14th when they were taken to the crime lab, correct?
That's when the clothing was transported to the lab.
And that's the only log we have of what happened to those clothes between January 29th and today.
Objection.
Overruled.
Yeah, because that was mentioned in Buchanan's testimony too, that, y'all bagged up some evidence, the clothes, the shoes, some taillight pieces and all that stuff. But some of the stuff wasn't like logged until, is it March, right? March 14th, until it was transported over to the next unit. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? Why are we not being meticulous about this?
Do you know that?
I don't. Not off the top of my head, ma'am.
I want to talk for a second about the searches in Brian Albert's front lawn that took place on and after January 29th, 2022. As a case officer,
Defense is going to hammer everything they can to discredit the investigation. Yeah, of course. And, it makes sense why the defense will explore even some of like the silly theories, because you never know who in the jury might pick up on those silly theories and be like, oh, actually, you know what? That's believable. So sometimes to me, it looks really ridiculous when they're pursuing certain things, but I'm like, I guess I get it, because who knows what kind of jury, who knows what the jury might pick up on. But the thing that they keep pushing that I'm like, that's so silly is, Oh, the fight thing, the fake fight in the bar. I'm like, I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe the women in the jury, maybe they'll see like two guys like play fighting and see it as like, oh look, they're trying to fight each other. I don't know. I thought it was kind of weird. No, I haven't seen the Young Thug lawyer arrested thing yet, but I think did Bruce River cover it? I'll probably watch it on his YouTube channel. Let's see, Bruce River, because I think he covers a lot of the Young Thug stuff. Bruce Rivers. I heard that his attorney. Yeah, Bruce Rivers covered it. I haven't. We can watch the Bruce Rivers reaction. I haven't seen it yet though. But he was arrested, right? Is the attorney still his attorney or what?
Trooper Proctor, you also took control of the taillight pieces that were ultimately claimed to have been found at that location, correct?
Not in all searches.
Which of the pieces that were found were you responsible for taking control of?
8th, 11th, and 18th.
So who had control over the items that were found before the 8th? You said the 8th, 11th, and 18th, right?
Those are items that I found on those days and that I had processed and essentially bagged and tagged them and handed them over to our evidence officer. There was multiple days that troopers were out there looking for more evidence.
So there would be a log of that too, right?
Oh, wait.
Again, how the system works as far as the evidence comes in, I can't speak to that.
So you have no idea what the chain of custody of any of these items are, the clothing or the taillight material, from January 29th until March 14th, when the evidence log starts. Is that what you're saying?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
There is a log. I mean, it's in our system where labels are created, and it generates the time and date that label's created, and then it shows that it's at our office in a secure facility, and then it was brought to the lab on the 14th.
What happens if the label is created and says something like, I don't know, February 4th? What happens to the items before February 4th?
They were stored in a secured facility, a secured room.
Says who? Where's the log?
Objection.
Sustain.
Is there a log of that?
Because I'm assuming a label's created when you grab the items and then you put it in like the folder, right? And then you put the label on top of it, right? That's when the label's created. But we have seen some like handwritten stuff. So instead of like using a label to generate it, and then remember the label has to be generated by the evidence officers. So instead of having the evidence officers generate the labels, was he just handwriting them like on the envelopes instead? Because it seems like that's what happened. We saw a lot of like handwriting on the label on the envelopes. No, not like a printout sticker thing or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how it's done. So I'm still very hazy at like how this is all done in their evidence stuff.
Not to my knowledge.
You were responsible for seizing Ms. Reed's car, correct?
Yes.
And you originally claimed that that seizure took place at 5:30 p.m.
I've been reading that a lot. I think a lot of people were saying that, like, maybe the state overcharged. They should have charged her with impaired driving causing bodily harm, maybe, question mark. I don't know. Let's, after the state is done presenting their case, let's see where I stand on that.
Is that right?
Correct.
You signed numerous affidavits under oath, claiming that you did not seize Ms. Reed's vehicle until 5:30 p.m. on January 29, 2022, right?
Correct.
At the time that you seized Ms. Reed's vehicle, you were unaware that there was alarm.com surveillance footage of the area from which the car was seized, correct?
Correct.
The fact of the matter is, that was false. The car was not seized at 5:30, was it?
4:16 p.m.
Right.
All right, so we watched this part already.
Fabiano, Courtney Alba, Colin Albert.
So this is back to his handwritten notes. And I think they're going to talk about Colin Albert for a little bit.
And Sarah Levinson, correct?
Correct.
You then drafted a report memorializing your conversation with Juliana Nagel, correct?
Yes.
And that report is a formal memorialization of your interview based on your investigation, correct?
Yes, a summary of the conversation for the interview.
And that report is the thing that's turned over to the Commonwealth, correct?
Yes.
And the report is the thing that's entered into discovery and provided to the defense?
Correct.
And isn't it true that in that report, you list the individuals that were at 34 Fairview as Brian, Mary Kent, Emily Fabiano, Sarah Levinson? Is that correct?
Yes.
What's the one name that was left out of your report on that list?
Objection.
Oh, well, was there one name left out? Break that down, Mr. Jackson.
Sure. Isn't it true that in your report, you excluded the one name, Colin Albert, from the list of individuals that were in your notes?
Yes, because he arrived later in the evening. The other females were there from the start.
At the time that you wrote your report, the formal report, this one, you did not believe that your handwritten notes were also going to be disclosed, did you?
No, I knew that was a possibility.
When you finally did get around to interviewing Colin Albert, you personally conducted that interview, did you not?
Yes,
Colin
along with
Albert
Trooper
told
Zach
you-
Clark.
One at a time.
I'm sorry.
Finish your answer, Trooper.
Please go ahead.
Yes, along with Trooper Zach Clark in my office.
Colin Albert told you that he was picked up by Allie McCabe from his uncle's house at 12:10 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Allie McCabe also told you that she picked up Colin Albert at 34 Fairview at 12:10 a.m. and then dropped him off at his house, correct?
Correct.
And then she indicated that she went straight home after that, right?
Yes.
Did you conduct any further investigation to determine whether Colin Albert and Allie McCabe were actually telling the truth about that time?
We did not.
You just took them at their word, correct?
Yes.
Trooper Proctor, you realize you had a forensic image at the time. You had a forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone in your possession, right?
Correct.
You're also aware that she has a Life 360 app on her phone that tracks the location of Allie McCabe, correct?
I was not aware the app tracked her daughter. I knew of the Life 360 app, but I wasn't aware of the capability of tracking her daughter.
Did you bother to look at Jennifer McCabe's Life 360 app to determine whether Colin Albert and Allie McCabe were telling the truth about the time they supposedly left 34 Fairview?
Objection.
Did you do that alone?
I did not.
We'll take a look at tab 8. Do you recall looking at all at a Life 360 app or its data from Celebrate Report?
Objection.
Did you or did you not look at any data from Life 360 from Jennifer McCabe's phone?
Objection.
All right, so this is a good time to take morning recess, and I'll see Constance. 15, 20 minutes.
All right, 15, 20-minute recess. I think people just have an issue with Karen Reed because a lot of people are saying that, like, oh, she's like smirking and she's smiling in the courtroom.
All right, Mr. Jackson, whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
Which I guess could be interpreted like, oh, like you think she's smirking because you think she's getting away with it, or you think she's smirking because she's like literally smirking at the the person who's testifying on the stand because they're making a fool of themselves. I think it could be interpreted different ways.
Trooper Proctor, did you include in your investigative file any Celebrate report
Depending on where your mindset is with Karen.
related to the Life 360 app that was on Ms. McCabe's phone that you earlier testified to?
Trooper Garino was our cell phone expert, kind of handled that, so I'm not positive if that report, if he generated that report.
Okay, so it goes without saying, I shouldn't say that because it goes without saying, I shouldn't say it. Did you review a Life 360 report in an effort to determine whether or not Colin and Allie were telling the truth?
No.
It's a noise.
You grew up in Canton, did you not?
Yes.
I don't want an address, but just generally as a crow flies, how close would you say you live from the Albert residence at the former Albert residence at 34 Fairview in Canton?
2-3 miles?
How about from the McCabe residence? Again, don't give me any addresses.
Maybe a mile.
You know, given the fact that you grew up in Canton, that it's about a mile walk through some woods to get to Canton High School from 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
Did you have any Canton police officers canvass the area around the high school or filling stations around the high school, gas stations around the high school for video surveillance footage?
No.
Did you have any conversations with anybody from Canton about video surveillance concerning the high school and or surrounding gas stations?
Yes.
Who is that?
It was Officer Galanis.
Can you turn to tab 9, please?
Do you guys remember what part it was where they were talking about his relationship with the McCabe's and Alberts? I'm trying to find that, but I can't find it. I don't remember when that happened.
First, let me ask you if you recognize these texts with any individual.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize those texts?
That was a text communication between Officer Galanis and myself.
Taking a look at those text communications, do you see the inclusive?
18th, 2022, 2:05 p.m.
These are texts on a single day, correct?
That's correct.
I'll let you publish it.
I was asking if they had any knowledge of cameras in the area.
Okay. And of course, that was to an officer who was employed by which department?
Canton Police Department.
Which you knew at the time that you asked for assistance in February of 2022 had been recused from the case, correct?
Correct.
And should have no investigative involvement in the case, correct?
I did not request for them to pull video. I just simply asked, what are some good cameras in the area?
Which is an assistance for you in your investigation.
Okay, so the thing about this case is there are people who are mainly focusing on just the trial stuff, and then there are also people who have seen pre-trial stuff and anything outside of the courtroom. So it depends on like what knowledge you have, because sometimes when people in my chat are like arguing about certain things, it's like people who haven't seen outside trial stuff arguing with people who have seen the outside trial stuff. And I'm not saying one person's right or wrong or anything like that. That's where there's like confusion. So the interview stuff, we have not seen any Karen Reed interviews in the trial, but there was an interview that she did with, I don't remember. It was like she did an interview and then like her dad and mom did an interview. So yeah, that could be where a lot of the confusion is.
Correct?
They have more knowledge in the area as far as useful cameras. So yes, I reached out regarding cameras in the area.
Or assistance from Canton PD officers?
Yes.
Whom you knew to be recused?
Yes.
Yes. You specifically asked Officer Galanis whether, quote, the high school had cameras facing the street, correct?
Correct.
And Officer Galanis writes back, the Canton Mutual gas station has unreal cameras. That's how I picked up that kid, and it had him walking into the woods by the new street Larkin Court, correct?
Correct.
You responded, good to know, I'll add that to the list, correct?
Yes.
Did any of the reports you turned over in discovery ever mention the Canton Mutual gas station cameras or the cameras from Canton High School?
No, because we did not retrieve any video from those locations.
And you didn't mention in your report that you even sought the footage from those
Well, I mean,
locations,
if you're
correct?
not if you're not a jury, you're not beholden to like the jury rules, right? So a lot of people have done research about this case. A lot of people have, seen whatever footage, read the documents, motions, and all that stuff. So
I don't believe so.
You did say that you would add it to the, quote, list. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're aware, obviously, as one of your responsibilities, to maintain and keep your handwritten notes from all communications, all investigative activities involved in the case, correct?
Yes.
And you have no notes on this conversation, correct?
Correct.
yeah, that makes sense. I'll probably look things up after the trial is done. But now I don't want the outside source to influence my decision. If that makes sense. Sarah Boone's lawyer is looking to leave. Is there a new motion filed? I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I think a lot of people who are watching this case, a lot of you guys are just watching the trial and you don't know anything about the pre-trial stuff. Like, that's how I started initially too. Like, I was like, there's too much like noise with this case. I just want to focus on the trial stuff. But then I got curious, okay? And I think a lot of streamers are doing that too. I think they're just like watching the trial stuff and then maybe afterwards they'll research the pre-trial stuff and all that stuff. So it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. So it makes sense.
Correct.
I tried finding the relationship part with the McCabe's and Alberts, but I don't know.
As the lead investigator, Trooper Proctor, you are responsible ultimately for deciding which witnesses will be interviewed and which witnesses will not be interviewed, correct?
Like I mentioned yesterday or Monday, it's a collaborative effort within the office, so we bounce ideas off each other as far as what witnesses need to be interviewed, et cetera. So it's more a group effort, a group decision.
But as the case officer, you make some of the final decisions on who's going to be investigated, who's going to be interviewed, things of that nature, right?
I facilitate certain areas, yes.
I want to talk about some of the witnesses that you interviewed in the days and weeks immediately following.
Wait, Natros, did you find it? Is it on a court TV stream? Are you answering me?
Mr. O'Keefe's death. You interviewed Brian Albert, correct?
Correct.
Nicole Albert, yes?
Yes.
Chris Albert?
Yes.
Julie Albert?
Yes.
Jennifer McCabe?
Yes.
Her husband, Matt McCabe?
Correct.
All those individuals are related in one way or another, either through marriage or otherwise, to each other, correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And you also interviewed Brian Higgins, is that right?
Yes.
I want to talk for a second about the individuals that you did not immediately choose to interview. Julie Nagel wasn't interviewed until October 2022, correct?
All right, we got to this part. It was an hour 23 in, right around here. This part? Where's the audio? There's no audio. Oh, they're doing sidebar, I think.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. You were asked the question, quote, did you communicate with First Assistant DA Beelan that you did not know and had no relationship with the Albert and McCabe families?
Thank you. Yes, this is what I was looking for.
You answered, quote, to the best of my recollection, the same conversation took place with everyone I talked to about this because it's the same answer. It's the facts that I shared with everyone. Question, meaning you told First Assistant Beelan that you didn't know, didn't have a relationships with
Objection, Your Honor.
members of the Albert and McCabe families. Answer, correct.
Yes, that's correct.
So your question is whether he said this?
Correct. Whether that's his testimony. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And that's your testimony that you, in fact, told members of the DA's office that you did not know and did not have a relationship with the Alberts or McCabe's. Is that right?
I did not know the McCabe's. I don't know most of the Alberts, and I have little to no relationship with Chris and Julie. So that's what I meant by that answer.
Well, the question wasn't, did you know most of the Alberts? The question was, did you have a relationship with, or did you know the Alberts? And your answer was, no.
No, I don't have a relationship with the Alberts.
Or know them.
I don't know the McCabe's. I don't have a relationship with the Alberts.
So you do know the Alberts, correct?
I know some of them, Julie and Chris.
And
it's like kind of weird how he answered that. It's like he pick and chose. It's like, well, I don't have a relationship with these people, and then I don't know these people. But it could also be flipped the other way. It's like, okay, you didn't know the McCabe's, but you knew the Alberts, so why not say you knew the Alberts? Oh my God, I don't know why he would do this to himself.
And Colin.
But I don't think he's trying to. I genuinely don't think he was like lying to cover up. I think he was just like not very smart.
Correct, and Colin.
And you knew the Alberts when you gave this testimony in February of 2024. Is that right?
Yeah, they asked if there was any relationships.
No, I mean, y'all can see his line too. I just feel like he's just too dumb, man. I don't know.
Let's try this again.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning you told First Assistant Beeland that you didn't have relationships with members of the members of the Albert and McCabe families. Answer, correct. Was that ambiguous in your mind?
The way I interpreted relationships was basically being like friends or, communications, frequent communications. That's how I interpreted it.
Well, that might have been a good time.
Because it would make sense if you said no, but then you qualified your answer further. Be like, no, I don't have a relationship with them, and I don't have, I don't know them. However, my sister, blah, 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 Kevin Albert, blah, blah, blah. Like, you got to qualify your fucking answer. You don't have to just say no. I don't know if he just didn't qualify his answer at all.
To pipe up and say, well, I know Chris, and I know Julie, and I know Colin, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
That might have been a good time to answer the question, I know these three individuals from the Albert family, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
But your answer was one word, correct, right?
Yes.
You further testified that you never have gone to any supervisor at Massachusetts State Police to disclose even a potential conflict of interest in this case that you might have, correct?
Correct.
I think he's too dumb to cover up.
And you indicated the needs never come up. Is that right?
Correct.
You also told ADA Lally that you, quote, did not have relationships.
Oh my God, he told Lolly this too. Oh my God, Lolly must have had a field day when he found out. Oh my Lord.
Or no members of the Albert or McCabe families, correct?
Correct.
And that's just not true, is it? You do know members of the Albert family. Isn't that right?
It's different from having a relationship with people.
But what about part of the question? Did not.
Jesus Christ. He's like really mincing at the word. Well, it's not relationship. It's like, sir, it's not a yes or no. You can explain a little bit further.
Have relationships or no members of the Albert or McCabe families. How about that part of the question?
Well, that's lumped in with the McCabes. I don't know the McCabe family, sir.
I see. So what you did, Trooper Proctor, is you dissected the sentence. And where relationships are concerned, you ignored that in terms of the Alberts because you don't have relationships. Where no is concerned, you link that to the McCabes because you don't know the McCabes. That's what you did?
No.
So why do you think he's dumb? Why not just lying, Lamau? At this point, I'm not convinced of the cover-up. At this point, defense hasn't gone yet. Maybe will change my mind. But at this point, I'm not convinced of the cover-up. However, I do think that he did a shitty job. A bunch of other people did a shitty job. And there is some really sus things, like with the text messages that are deleted, phone calls, butt dials. Like, I do think there's some really weird shit happening. I acknowledge that. But at this point, I'm not convinced of the cover-up. I just think that this guy's he's just pretty dumb.
So it's sustained. You can ask it. You can break it down, Mr. Jackson.
Not sure I can. I'll ask it a different way. How about if I just ask it this way? That was a lie, wasn't it?
No, absolutely not.
You stand by that testimony?
Yes.
That you don't know
But I mean, possible that, let's say, initially when he could have recused himself, from the very beginning and he didn't, maybe later down the road he was like, actually, maybe I should have recused myself, but now I can't recuse myself because I'm already so far into the investigation. And then when they asked him, oh, do you have a relationship with the McCabe Albert family? And maybe he decided to lie then on the spot. That's possible.
at the time that you testified that you didn't know the Alberts or any members of the Albert family?
They don't have relationships with them.
Okay. My question is, you keep going back to relationships. I'm asking you, did you testify that you didn't know them?
Objection.
I'll let him have it. Do you understand the question, Trooper?
Do you understand the question?
I knew Chris, Julie, and Colin.
So if you were to say, I don't know any members of the Albert family, that would have been a lie, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
I wonder if being lead investigator in a murder case, if he just saw the prestige that would come with that. I wonder if he already knew that, okay, well, it seems like this murder case is in the bag. People want answers, Maybe he thought it was in the bag and he was just going to get prestige from being the person that solved the case. And that's why he didn't want to recuse himself either, or say that oh yeah, I do know some of the Albert people, I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. Was this a homicide thing that he just wanted to smack his name on? Why wouldn't he say that oh, by the way, maybe I'm not the best person to be the lead detective on this? Because remember, he's not sidekick detective. He's the lead detective on this. I don't know if he just didn't want to say that oh, maybe I shouldn't be lead detective because, maybe, my sister knows the Alberts, and I might know the Alberts too. I'm just really confused why he continued to move forward with this. Yeah, and his definition of relationship just sounds ridiculous. like when they say relationship, you know exactly what they're asking. You know exactly the answer that they're looking for. You know the question that they're asking. Now you might say they're like, oh, well, you know, relationship. I didn't have a friendship with them. It's like you knew what they were asking. Come on now.
Your Honor, this is the point at which I intend to turn to tab 3, and I believe we need to approach.
Okay. Jurors, feel free to stand.
The fact that a key video that may have made or broken this case mysteriously disappeared is in and itself sus as fuck. The key video. Which one? The Sallyport one? God, what are we doing? It's a long ass sidebar. Oh, the ring video? The 42 minutes? there's a lot of things that are possibly missing. there's like the weird Sallyport video, inverted, flip, whatever. And there's a footage of where we can actually see Karen Reed's taillight, but the video's all fucked up. The ring video, like, what happened to that? There's no way for Ring to figure out if it was deleted or not. Like, oh my God, like, so annoying. I don't know. I'm just so annoyed. The Ring camera video.
Yeah, just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Bruh, grainy is an understatement. Grainy for the inverted, but for that other motherfucker that they showed, oh sorry, I shouldn't say that on YouTube, right? Jesus, that wasn't even grainy. That was just like, you couldn't even see what that was. It was an outline. Let me see if I can find it. It was an outline. I'm like, what the hell is this shit? Oh, did I not take a screen grab of that? Oh, why didn't I take a screenshot of it? Yeah, they flipped they had another camera footage of the Sallyport video, and it would have been perfect. Like, great. Now we can see Karen Reed's taillight. We can see who's behind it. But it was like, it was all jacked up. I'm like, oh my God, what is up with this place? Like everything just sucks. And because everything sucks, I mean, I'm not surprised why people think it's a cover up. Karen had access to the camera. That part, I'm not quite sure. Lolly wrote in his motion that one of the kids said that Karen had access because she had access to the family computer, and I think the ring could have been on there. But someone in my chat was telling me that when the kids testified, there were notes taken that the kids said Karen Reed didn't have access to the ring. But the notes it was like Turtle Boy's notes. So I was like trying to see if there's another reporter who could have reported on that and then maybe say the same thing. But I haven't done my research on that part yet. So I don't know if she has access to the Ring app thing. I don't know if she knew the passcode to John's phone or she knew how to get onto the family computer. I'm not really quite sure. She had full access to that. How do you know though? Because I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure Lolly would be pounding it by now. You know, like, oh, she had access. I don't know if they ever mentioned that. Did they flip it back in court? The defense did flip the Sallyport video back. Police department's definitely sus in a sort of a weird way in this case, and I still don't know what the deal is. So what are y'all thinking? That she's guilty? I think she's guilty though, probably. If I was a jury right now, I would not be convinced. If I was a jury, I would not be convinced. Now, if I was at the beginning of this trial, it's like, okay, could make sense. You know, angry girlfriend gets in a fight with the boyfriend. She got pissed off. She hit him with a car and then she drove off, or she was drunk or was accident. Yeah, that could make sense. But as the trial progressed and as the state brought up all these witnesses to testify, I'd be like, okay, I don't really know what the fuck happened. Please tell me what happened, Mr. Lolly. Please give me some witnesses to tell me what happened. We're not there yet. I wouldn't feel like we're even close to being there yet. So I don't know. The jury is probably just like, they're probably confused. I'm sure they know that it feels like a shit show. there's missing ring log that Ring said in their warrant. There is missing ring logs that Ring said in their warrant response that they turned over. I don't remember that. I remember Jackson asking Buchanan if there were ring logs, and Buchanan said they didn't exist. There are no ring logs. And then Jackson was like, "Oh well, didn't Ring send you guys or send Proctor like a Google Drive, like a bunch of files on there or something like that?" And so it was like, "Yeah, they did, but I don't know. I didn't really get much from it." What I got out of it was, okay, there's no Ring log saying if someone accessed the Ring app and deleted and did X, Y, and Z activities, which would have been fucking great. But I don't think they have that. Now, maybe when the defense, maybe they have an expert that can interpret. Like I'm sure they have access to the Ring, whatever the Ring people sent over to the state and the troopers. I'm sure the defense has that in their possession, and they can go through and be like, see, look, this is what Ring said they sent over, and this is what you guys gave us. There's a discrepancy of like maybe like the gigabytes or something. I don't know. The Ring thing is still kind of weird to me. I don't really have anything definitive about that. Yeah, that's why it's not guilty, in my opinion. Way too much reasonable doubt. She drove off dragging him from a moving vehicle, and he bent over to pick up his shoe, and she backed into him? ? I don't know. We've only heard so far. We haven't really heard too much about Lolly. Lolly said in opening statements that he believes he got hit twice. That's all he said. Proctor finally said that he believes that, Karen was about to, like, John Reed left the car with a cocktail in his glass. Karen Reed was going to leave, and then she backed into him, and then she ran and came back 5.5 hours later. That's all that we've heard so far. Nothing else, really. So, I don't know. I'm assuming they have to call an expert to explain all that shit to us. Remember how thorough in the Murdoch case? Remember how thorough it was when Keith McKenzie went up there to testify, talked about the positioning of the shotgun, the blackout gun as well, and talked about like him and the medical examiner. They talked about like the stipplings, the back of the head, and all that stuff. Sorry, that sounds really graphic, but they talked about all of that and like how this injury could have been caused by this, and how this angle would have been this, and how the splatters like this. Like that was like, oh, okay, that's how it happened. That's how, how Paul was shot. Murdoch was outside of the feed door and shot Paul, possibly while bending over or, like kneeling down or something. Oh, that's how Maggie was shot. Maggie was shot like this, and then she fell over at some point, and then she was shot like this. Like, we had how it might have happened, right? But with this case, it's like, I don't know what the fuck happened to John. I don't know. I think they did see autopsy photos of John, because that was the part they didn't show to us, except for the scratches on his arm. But they didn't do a reenactment how the injuries could have happened. The state failed. I think that would have been like a good way, because I know the defense, they're going to have a crash reconstructionist that's going to show that like, oh, there's no way Karen Reed did this to John, because there's no way the car could have done this and that and whatever the heck it is, right? So I don't know. Maybe Lolly wants to keep the best witnesses for last, because he wants the last witnesses to testify and wants that to be fresh in the jury's mind. Maybe that's the method he's going with. I feel so bad making such harsh judgments on Lolly when he hasn't rested his case. But I think at this point we're a month in, and I think it's okay to have some words about Lolly. I don't know. I think it's a lot of incompetence. Yeah, I like to say that to trigger people. Gigabytes. I think it's funny. I noticed the skipping when couriers were getting past the camera. My neighbors were putting things on my door. Oh, yeah, I talked about that too, about how the videos could be skipping, or it looks like someone's a ghost and appeared out of nowhere. Like, I have motion activated stuff, and my neighbors, when they were fighting, it looked like they were skipping around and appearing out of nowhere on the yard. Because sometimes the motion activated stuff just acts really wonky. But what looks really bad is that it seems like instead of having each file downloaded separately, it was like one big file for the motion activated stuff. I feel like for each motion activated event, it should be a separate file. That way, it wouldn't be like one video playing and it looks like out of nowhere someone appeared, someone disappeared. You know, I don't know. I already mentioned this already. The defense has 3 experts provided by the FBI. Yeah, that sounds pretty crazy. It sounds pretty crazy. I think the FBI witnesses are is it ARCCA or something like that? Were they the shoot? It's in my notes somewhere. But yeah, I do remember that some of the witnesses that they are going to voir dire this week are some of the witnesses from the FBI, the ones that were called on by the FBI. So yeah, that's very interesting to me. It is very interesting to me. Also, why is the defense providing FBI witnesses and not the prosecution? I don't know, but I know. I mean, it sounds bad, right? Because it sounds like, oh wait, the FBI, did they side with the defense or what happened with that? So I don't know. I wish we knew more about this whole the FBI investigation stuff, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of the FBI stuff, they usually just kind of like keep hush hush, right? Which is annoying. Like, for example, like federal trials, like they don't live stream that shit. I wish they did. All right, guys. Anyways, I appreciate chatting with you guys. I think that's what I wanted to cover with Proctor's testimony. I know we jumped around a lot, but like I said, when I watched the stream live, I can't write the timestamp down because the timestamp will keep changing the longer the stream runs for. So I appreciate your guys' patience. I appreciate chatting with you guys about this whole wild case and, you know, talking about all these different theories about what you guys think, about what the jury might be thinking, about what you guys think about the people testifying on the stand. I don't know. I think that's what's so interesting about this case is that, like for me, when I'm done with my stream, I'll have like other streamers playing in the background because I'm like, I wonder what they think about this. Or I wonder if they thought this was weird. Or I wonder if they thought this wasn't as bad as other people thought. Like, I don't know. I think this case is so interesting that I like hearing from what other people think. So, damn, that's why it's like I have like other cases that I want to read up on, research and all that stuff. But the Karen Reed stuff, like off stream, like it takes a lot of my time. So I'm like, man, I wonder what this person thought, you know? And Laura, you know, is probably streaming right now, probably talking about it too. All right, y'all. Anyways, I appreciate the good conversation. I know that like when you're really passionate about certain cases, I know sometimes it gets hard to, you know, talk with people who disagree and stuff like that. But I'm glad that you guys are doing okay with that. You guys are doing good. Yeah, even so, if she did what they accused her, it's going to be hard to convince the jury to convict her based on the way the investigation was led. Yeah, because like if you think that the entire investigation was tainted because you don't trust Proctor on the stand, then shit, you know? You might not trust anything. You might not trust how the evidence was handled, the chain of custody, how the witnesses were handled, whether or not they pursued other leads, right? Like there's a lot of things that you might not trust. And the hard part is that there's like no recordings, barely. Like we have no recordings, okay? No recordings, no interrogations, like no body cam footage. The documentation of the evidence seems really weird. Some that wasn't documented like formally until like days later, weeks later, months later. Some interviews weren't interviewed until like lots of months later. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Like I'm trying so hard to give them benefit of the doubt. Brandon, hello. Brandon, thank you so much for coming back here. 17 months. I hope you're doing well, Brandon. Because I know that, say like imagine working at your job and then having a bunch of people going back through your work and scrutinizing you for every little thing that you could have done in retrospect, right? That's probably really hard, especially when you're working as like a detective. It's high pressure, blah, 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 you know. Like, I don't know. I'm like trying so hard to understand and be like, okay, well, you know, it seems like when they got there were witnesses that said that, you know, Karen Reed said this. And it seems like when they got to the hospital, they thought it was, you know, a car accident because of X, Y, and Z. And it seems like, oh, maybe they got tail light pieces in the shoe, like how he keeps saying on the stand over and over again. But it's like, wouldn't you want to just make sure you cover your bases? Like, just to make sure, like, yes, like it could look like, you know, like you really thought Karen Reed did it and she did it this way, that way, whatever. Maybe you have limited resources, but just to be really fucking sure, like, don't you want to make sure you interview like other people that were there that night, even if you don't think that John went to the house, maybe entertain the idea that, you know what if John did go into the house? You know, what if it was another stranger who did? Like, wouldn't you want to entertain other theories just in case? Maybe not entertain other things that are like not relevant, but I mean, at least talk to, I don't know, do some formal interviews with the people that saw John, or like people who saw, do formal interviews with people who thought they saw John, like pulling up in the car, or like, you know, like the 4 people that were in the other car, in the Ford F-150 that said they saw John and Karen pull up, and then Karen was sitting there, and then all that. So like, wouldn't you want to just make sure to cover your bases, you know? Like, oh gosh, I don't know. I can't stand the constant distraction from the donos. I think her donos, I think she does a pretty good job with the donos. Like, they have like a section at the end of the stream where they go through all the donos and stuff, right? That's normal though. You had one job, investigate like a normal person. Like, I don't know. Because I get it, when you're an investigator, I guess your time is so limited, so you want to make sure that you don't waste your time following up other leads that you don't think matter. I don't know. I just feel like you just want to cover your bases, at least on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, right? Like, at least cover your bases. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm not a detective. I don't work in law enforcement, so. But still, it just sounds bad. It just sounds really fucking bad. Limited. Sorry. When I meant like limited, like let's say you have other homicides that you have to investigate, other deaths, or like other things you have to do, right? So you're trying to divide your time between this case and that case and all the other cases that you might have on your desk or something like that. So that's what I meant by limited. But man, I just feel like you would, in order to be a really good detective, like you would want to be meticulous at your job. Especially if you know that you might have to testify on the stand about the case, and you're going to get cross-examined, and they're going to go through your job, and they're going to go through everything you did and everything you didn't do. You know, like, I feel like you just want to be meticulous. Like, you know, do it for the victim's family, you know? Like, I don't know. It just seems really disappointing. But I would love to hear from anyone that, you know, if they work in law enforcement or they're a detective or something like that. I'm sure there has to be people that comment on this case that's in law enforcement or detectives or anything like that, that can tell us, you know, what do they think about law enforcement, right? I think someone did post in my Discord. I don't know if they were a lawyer or if they were in law enforcement, or maybe they were a detective. Someone might have posted in my Discord. Because that would be kind of interesting to hear. I want to hear from like different people in law enforcement, and, you know, say what they think. Like, oh, you know, like, you know, if I was in their shoe, maybe I would have done the same thing because I was only following the evidence, and maybe it makes sense why they didn't do X, Y, and Z at the 34 Fairview house, blah, 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 blah. You know, like, I don't know. It just seems disappointing. And you see like Karen Reed's mom right there. Or sorry, not Karen Reed's mom. John O'Keefe's mom right there. Like, this is me the entire time. almost the entirety of the trial. Like, just sitting there like this. Like, oh, I would just be like this the entire time if I was John O'Keefe's mom. It's just like, what is going on here? Why is it such a hot mess? Ay, ay, ay. I work as a goat caretaker and freelancer. I could only comment on goat cheese and meat. Wait, that sounds like such a fun job. Is it fun, or are the goats mean? The goats do look scary though. Don't they have eyeballs that look like plus signs? Or is that something in horror movies? I feel like all the investigations where as an investigator, the victim was a close friend to you, you are doomed from the start. Right. I just feel like, why would you even put the case in jeopardy? You know, like if you just have like, at first I was like, okay, well, maybe it's like a small town and maybe everyone does know each other and it's hard to not be involved in a case where you don't know a friend of a friend who knew the victim or something like that. But it's like, no, Canton recused himself. The group that got involved is the state police. Are there not a lot of other state policemen that could have been involved instead of you, Proctor? Like, I don't know. It seems like a state police. It seems like there could be other people who weren't part of Canton or have family in Canton that knows the victim or knows the family that saw the victim. You know, I don't know. Let's see. Was there anything else? I think that's about. Sorry, it was just really ranty at the end. But thanks for being here, guys. I hope you guys have a good one. Tomorrow, you know, I think this is what's going to happen. We've been talking about all the medical examiner stuff, but I think Lolly is going to probably call DiCiccio on the stand, maybe Kukowski, maybe the million of other troopers that were involved in this case, and then maybe we'll finally get to medical examiner. Oh, yeah. You know, how many times do we have to see the same pictures of the same evidence, the snow and all that stuff? Like, I like Lolly knows how to be thorough, but he's being thorough about the things that I'm like, no, there are other things that you could be thorough at. You know, like he was being really thorough about, like the basketball game and like the snow and and all that stuff. And what side was the car parked? What side everything was pulled up? It's like, no, can we thanks for being thorough about those things. But like the stuff that I think that I want you to be thorough on, you're not being thorough on, you know? Goats are climbing up the walls. Oh, goats climbing up the walls are so funny. You love goats. They look so cute. They look kind of evil though. They're hilarious. My neighbors never knew where they find their goats at the end of the day. Wait, what? On the roof, 12 feet up on a yucca plant? What? A former 5-year-old who played a cop. I did a better job at it even back then. Oh, as a former 5-year-old who played a cop. I don't know if I ever... Oh, I guess we played cops and robbers, but I was always the robber because that was more fun. Law enforcement corgi, they were disgusted by these local cops. Maybe they thought they were better. I don't know. Take better pictures of things if I get an Amazon package before and after, before I open it. They're trolling. Wait, what? What do they do? Oh, I take better pictures of things if I get an Amazon package before and after, before I open. Yeah, and then I'm also so disappointed. It's not just like law enforcement where the disappointment is. It's not just, you know, Lolly and stuff. It's also some other of the witnesses that have testified. And I'm like, wait a second. So you reconstructed the tail light and we're only getting like one picture? Tail lights are 3D. Where's the rest of the picture? Where's like the other side? Where's like the under, you know, like all this stuff. I don't know. Some of the stuff is just like really weird to me. Or like when you're taking pictures of the evidence and there's no measurement thing right next to it. It's like, oh, like, isn't that a thing where you put like the little measurement thing to see like how long it is, how wide it is and all that stuff? And at first I was like, oh, maybe they didn't have it on them. But no, some of the pieces of plastic had the little measurement thing next to it. I'm like, okay, so you guys just like pick and choose what you wanted to put the ruler next to. I don't know. Drives me nuts. But oh my God, am I so grateful for some of the other cases that we've watched together. Because I just feel like they were just so thorough, you know? Like remember how thorough they were when they went through the Murdoch evidence. Sorry, this is the last rant and I'm going to shut the hell up. But with the Murdoch thing, I remember people were getting bored in the beginning of the trial because they had all these like, you know, boring witnesses testifying. They were like expert testimonies. It was like, oh, I'm the person who went to the crime scene and processed it. I'm the person who bagged it. I'm the person who transported it. I'm the person who took it from here and then teleported to here. No, not teleported, but brought it to here. I'm the person who, you know, did like the blood analysis thing. And I'm the person who interpreted the results. It was like, it was so meticulous. You know, it was like we got to see how everything was handled, who did what, when it was done, when things were processed. And in this one, it's just like, huh? Say what now? I don't know. But what a wild case in Canton. Jesus. Wild stuff. All right, y'all. Well, you know, that's it for today. There's been a lot. Oh, actually, man, I think I have a lot of pages to read. Rain, thank you so much. Rain said that the FBI released 366 pages of the Gabby Petito case stuff. Oh boy, I think Madeline Soto, I think there's been a lot of stuff that's been released in her stuff as well. I had to look up her court case, the case stuff, all the case docs. And then Sarah Boone, did she drop her album yet? Her 56-page album or 58-page album? Let me see if it was Sarah Boone if they uploaded that stuff. Might be taking some time. Yeah. In this trial, here's your red plastic cup evidence. I don't know. I was like trying to be like, okay, well, I don't know. They said they didn't really process crime scenes often. It was snow. They didn't have their stuff on them. I don't know. But I don't think it was a good start to the trial, though. Oh, there is a motion to withdraw. Wait, what? Oh no, there's a motion to withdraw. You know, Patricia Cashman, that's the name of Sarah Boone's attorney, current attorney, eighth attorney, public defender. Patricia Cashman, when she was talking to the judge, you know, it made it seem like she was trying to wink at the judge. Hey, judge, you know, maybe I shouldn't be on this case. We're not getting along. She doesn't trust me. She's called me names. And the judge was like, you know what? Let's just schedule a potential trial date. And then here's the pre-trial thing. And we'll follow up, you know, maybe like end of September, beginning October, something like that. And I think the attorney was like, shit, damn it. I thought he was going to remove me from the case. No, that didn't happen. But now we have a motion to withdraw as counsel. Oh, God. Oh, man. I can read it really quick. Defense counsel Patricia A. Cashman respectfully moves this honorable court to enter its order allowing said defense counsel to withdraw from further representation. Oh, no. Defendant is charged with the above styled cause with second-degree murder. The undersigned counsel was appointed to represent Sarah Boone on February 9th, 2024. Release her. I feel so bad for her. Trial is set for October 7, which would allow new counsel time to prepare for said trial. Oh, God. Florida rule regulating the Florida bar. B, conflict of interest. Current client states, A, representing adverse interest except as provided in the subdivision. B, a lawyer must not represent a client if there is substantial risk that the representation of one or more clients will be materially limited by the lawyer's responsibility to another client, a former client, or a third-party person by a personal interest of a lawyer. And here's where I think it is. Number 4, irreconcilable differences, including, but not limited to, ethical considerations have arisen such that counsel can no longer provide representation. Motion to withdraw. Dude, all the other public defenders right now in Florida are like, please not me. Please don't assign her to me. Like, oh my gosh. Oh gosh. I'm telling you, there's no better Boone lawyer than DB. Ugh, Jesus. What else do we have here? Dude. Oh boy. What a mess. Jesus. What a mess. All right, well, there we go. We'll see if the judge is going to grant it. You know, the judge could deny it. Remember when the previous attorney, Mr. Berkowitz? What was his name before? I forgot his name. The previous attorney wanted to withdraw, and then that was denied. And then he tried to withdraw again, and that was granted. So this one, let's see if it gets granted. All right, y'all. Well, that's it for today. I hope y'all have a good one. I hope you guys take care. I need to go eat lunch. I'm starving. What is it, 2:30? I woke up so early today. I went to the doctor's. Have this ever happened to you guys? I set my alarm at 6:30 because my doctor's appointment's at 7. And I don't know. I guess I had so much anxiety that I was gonna miss my doctor's appointment and not wake up to the alarm, even though I always wake up to alarms. Usually, I'm a pretty light sleeper. I kept having a dream that I wasn't waking up to my alarm, or I was waking up to my alarm, or I was on my way to my doctor's appointment, or that my doctor's appointment was like Dr. Schmeagol. I don't know. It was like I had like such weird dreams. It was like so weird, and I felt like because my dreams were so weird, and I was having so much anxiety about not waking up for the doctor's appointment, I got like my sleep was so bad last night. I'm so tired right now. Sarah Boone called her 8th attorney snotty. Yep, and a liar. Yeah. 58 pages. I haven't seen the 58 pages yet, but that is what she told the judge. And Judge Kranick was like, 58 pages. Oh boy. Oh boy. Dr. Smeagol, that was definitely a nightmare. Yeah, I don't know. It was like such a weird. I had a dream that Dr. Smeagol was going to do my pap smear. And then I was like, wait, I don't want this guy to do my pap smear. I thought I was having like a female doctor do my pap smear. And that like he was like really scary and I didn't want him to do it. And then so another female doctor did my pap smear. And it was like so weird. They were like scooping eggs out of me. I don't know. It was such a weird dream. Oh, anyways, that was one of the dreams that I had about my doctor's appointment. Anyways, y'all, I hope you guys have a good one. Hope you guys take care, and I hope I didn't give you guys any weird mental images. It was such a weird dream. Oh, did you change your name? I don't like how the P is like lowercase. Why is your name like that? I hate going to the doctors. I just think, can't I just die with what I think I have instead? No, I'm so paranoid of dying. Oh my gosh. I'm so paranoid of dying. I will go to the doctors for little small things now. But when I went to the foot doctor and they snuck in a freaking x-ray, dude, no x-rays, okay? They're so expensive. They were like, yeah, come on in. We'll bring you back here. And we'll just take your x-rays for your foot really quick. I'm like, okay, cool. And I was like, okay, all right, whatever. And then I didn't realize that the way they did their billing for x-rays is so stupid because not only does my doctor look at the x-rays and interprets it, they send it out to another department for another doctor to look at the x-rays and interpret it. So I have to pay for my doctor to look at it and interpret it, and I have to pay for the other fucking doctor to look at it and interpret it. And it was like so expensive. I was like, oh my God, like how come, why is it so messed up like this? Because it's not like you can go to the doctor's appointment and be like, hey, how much is everything going to cost for me? And know your total there. It's like, no, you go in there, cross your fucking fingers, hoping that it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. So like initially when I got my bill, it was $80 for the imaging. So I'm like, oh, $80? Okay, that's fine. And then it was $300 to see the doctor. And I was like, $300? Damn, like, I mean, that's whatever. I guess I'll pay it. Keep in mind, I already paid the $50 copay to see a specialist. It was a foot doctor, right? I was like, okay, like, it was like $400, but okay, whatever, fine. Who cares, And then I get another fucking bill. And that bill was like for $600. And I'm like, what the fuck is this bill for? It was a bill for them sending it out to the radiologist in a different department, and they had to interpret it. And then I had to pay for the x-rays for some other shit. I don't know. It was like, I didn't understand what the fuck I was paying for. Oh, man. That was, yeah. I mean, it's not double billing because I guess you need to have another person to interpret it makes sense. Like you have a radiologist and look at the results, and then you have the doctor to look at the results too. I don't know. But like, I wasn't billed for that until months later. So total that I paid, total that I was billed for my insurance was like $2,000, I think. And I paid like $1,000. But when I went to the foot doctor, he didn't even do anything. When I went to my first foot doctor, he looks at your gait, like you get up, you walk, and then he looks at like where the imbalance is and all that stuff. This doctor barely even did anything, okay? He was like, I'll just like refer you to physical therapy. And I have PPO. I could have referred myself to physical therapy. I should have just done that. I should just refer myself to physical therapy. Anyways, but now I know. I just Google what I think is wrong and just get freaked out. Oh, yes. I used to do the dream journal thing. And it's really cool to do the dream journal thing and then to reactivate your memories, because sometimes when you dream about something, it's fresh in your mind that day and then you'll just forget about it. But it's really cool when like months, weeks later, you go back to your dream journal. You're like, oh, wait, I dreamt about this. Oh, wow. Yeah, I used to do that. But because I dream so much every day, I got lazy about writing it. But yeah, the dream journal thing used to be really cool. It used to be so cool. But you know what the funny thing is, Dominique? The funny thing is, when I went to the ER, I racked up $10,000 in bills, and my insurance covered it completely. And I was like, oh, well, that's good. If I go to the ER, everything's covered. But if I don't go to the ER, if I go to a regular doctor, then I'm going to get billed like $2,000 for getting x-ray and seeing, like radiology, or seeing the doctor and then having a radiologist interpret my results. It's like, what if people just kept going to the fucking ER to make sure their fucking bill is paid? I mean, it's not good too, because, obviously, it's an emergency room. But it's like everything was covered at the emergency room. My x-ray was covered. I had x-rays done, and then I had a CT scan. That was all completely covered. But when I went to, a non-emergency room, yeah, I had to pay like all the shit for the x-ray thing. And I didn't even need an x-ray. I don't even know why they did an x-ray. It's not like I got an accident and I hurt my foot. It was just like, oh, for the past couple years, like when I stand, my back just hurts. You know, like why do we need an X-ray of the foot if it's going to be so expensive? I don't know. I get they want to be thorough, but man, it was too expensive. I don't want you to be that thorough then if it's going to cost that much money. All right. It didn't work for me. I dreamt of finishing a project in college, woke up to a blank page. I heard that if you want to remember your dreams, drink water before you go to sleep. That way you wake up throughout the night. And then you could remember your dreams as you're having them. American healthcare is scary. I mean, it's honestly not that bad. It's just bad. Well, for my insurance, everyone has different insurance, so your experiences are very different. For me, it hasn't been bad. It only was bad when, you know, if you have to get like an X-ray or a CT scan or any of those things, if it's not in the ER, I guess. But the scary part is not knowing how much your insurance is going to cover and how much you're going to pay. That's the scary part. I wish you knew. Like, for example, when I go to the vet, I'm so used to how we deal with bills with vets, because with the vet, it's like, okay, I bring Cheryl in, they tell me it's going to cost this much. They give me a low total and a high total, right? And then if I want to proceed further, I give them a $50 deposit. I already know how much money they're going to suck out of me, okay? And how much they're going to take out of me. But when I go to the human doctor, it's like, well, here's your copay. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And it's like, well, you know, this is what you're going to do today. We don't know how much it's going to cost. And then you'll get a bill later. And then we'll find out how much your insurance pays. It's like, oh. I'm like, there has to be a better way to do this. I don't know. Maybe there's a better way to do this. Maybe I have to watch a YouTube video about how you need to up your game when you go to the doctors, what you need to know. Anyways. Dang, that it was like $120 to see a doctor. My insurance at the time was like, here's what we're covering. But dentist is like, oh, here's the bill. Oh, yeah, the dentist thing is like straight up too. I like the dentist thing. The dentist, exactly. Wait, I don't know why they can't operate like the dentist. Yeah, because the dentist, you go there, they tell you, okay, well, this is your, this is how much we're charging you to clean your teeth, whatever, right? This is how much it is to do your cavities. We cover 80% or something like that. Like the dentist, you get it up front too. So I don't know. In the doctor's office, you don't. Vets are so expensive. Yeah. We have a joke where Shiro got hurt it was like 3 weeks ago. We were playing pickleball, and then I like to run around the courts, and Shiro can chase me. And so there's a joke now where Shiro had a $700 limp that just went away the next day. He jumped up and he landed funny, or he either like sprained something when he was running, and so he was limping so bad, and it was like so sad. And I'm like, oh my god, I don't want him to suffer. So we brought him, of course, to the vet right away, because I was I didn't want him to die. But they at first I was like, oh, I mean, they're just gonna give us medicine, but it's like, oh, but if you want to be thorough, you want to do x-rays. It's like, oh, okay, we'll do x-rays. It's like $300. Okay, not bad. Oh, but then here's the medication that we want to give him, but we really shouldn't give him medication unless we have his blood results. It's like, oh, okay, I guess we'll do the blood results, because I don't want him to die if he has a bad reaction to the medication. It's like, okay, we did the blood results. And it's like, okay, that's like $600 now. Okay, I think that's it. Oh, here's the medication, and like another $100. What the fuck? It was $700. I mean, I think I should have just waited it out, but I was afraid that he might have been suffering, and I didn't want him to be in pain. I don't know. I just wanted medication. I just wanted to give him medication so he wouldn't be hurting the next day, and that's exactly what happened. But it's like we had to do this, and this because we just wanted to make sure. But man, yeah, it was pretty expensive. But we have vet insurance though, so if you have a pet, get pet insurance. It's so worth it. All right. I know I said I wasn't going to rant anymore, but that's the end of my rant. That's it. Okay. That's it. I'm going to respond to the chat, and I'm not going to add any more to it. I'm going to shut my mouth because I need to eat. Speaking of the dentist, I need to go to a teeth cleaning. What's help is water floss and regular flossing. They barely have to clean my teeth, which is nice because I hate it when they're like all up in there. Just came in from the dentist yesterday without insurance. Cleaning was $245? What? No way. Usually cleaning is, well, they'll offer it to you for, sorry, not free, but it's like usually like 50 or 70 bucks. Why is your cleaning $245? I know sometimes they charge fluoride, which is another like 20, 30 bucks. What the heck? That's so expensive. How is Shiro doing? He's doing good. His butt is right here. He's so adorable. I'm going to take him outside afterwards, and we're going to run around the yard. Yeah, there's like the water floss thing. Oh my Lord. The water floss is great at taking out chunklings of meat and food in your teeth. So this is my routine here. Man, if y'all ain't know about the water floss, So the water floss does not substitute for a regular flossing, but I mean, I think it depends on people's teeth as well. Like for me, I tend to get a lot of food chunks in my teeth, so I have to floss. So this is the water floss. So what I do is I use this to get all the food chunks out of my teeth, and then I floss to get all the fine detail stuff out, and then I brush my teeth. So yeah, once you get used to it, it doesn't seem very time consuming. Yeah, that was tacked on. Really, they charge you for fluoride? Oh my god. Do I have a good recommendations for the water pick? I think I just use water pick. I think that's the brand, just water pick. Yeah, it's just a water pick brand. But that's what I don't know, that's what I use. I water pick, floss, brush my teeth, and that's it. Yeah, it could be $80, but they do have like the travel ones, which is cheaper. However, with the travel ones, you have to keep refilling water like halfway through your use, so that does get a little bit annoying. But I mean, they have like so many. I mean, I have the Water Pick brand, which I think is like the brand. But I feel like with this, you don't need to get the best brand out there because they probably all do the same similar things. Yeah. Anyways. That, yeah, Texas or Alabama. I'm in California, so I'm good on that. Let's see. Had his like routine. Oh, routine medical check and eye drops. That's pounds, right, Wayne? 110 pounds. Ouch, but I don't mind. He's my bestest friend. Oh, yeah. They're like your little babies. There's this funny thing on Instagram where it's like people, when they say, stop calling your dog my baby, and then they upload a picture of an ultrasound with their dog's picture on, like, you know, like when you're pregnant, you take a picture, you do the ultrasound thing, whatever it's called. They put like a picture of their dogs in there, and they do like some other shit where they treat their dogs like literal babies. That's funny. So you could just put a show like, oh God, I'm dying. Take you to the ER. I mean, it seems, I mean, I don't know. It seems like everything was covered when I went to the ER, but I don't know if it's like there's like a maximum or minimum or something. But no, I really thought I was going to die because it was after I had COVID, and it was like 6 weeks after I had COVID where I was having like severe chest and rib pain. And I was like, dude, am I going to die? Should I just go to the hospital? It was like a couple months after Steve died, so I was getting paranoid that death was a thing that was going to happen and that I was going to die too. 210, yeah, that sounds really expensive. I wonder what else they did. Because 210 would be like if you did a filling, or like $245 would be, I don't know. Yeah, that sounds really expensive. I don't know. I don't order things from Temu, man. I'm scared of Temu and Alibaba, but possibly. But you know, I mean, here's the thing, I guess. Like the things that are being sold on Amazon could also be the same supplier as Temu and Alibaba, to be honest, you know? Yeah, I feel like Temu is like Alibaba, right? They always pop up on my feed. Corgi accidentally eats too much Vegemite, ends up taking an x-ray. Oh, I threw out the Vegemite. I don't have Vegemite in my possession anymore. Really? I have a cleaning tomorrow. It's going to be $100. Why is your cleaning so expensive? What? $140 for cleaning? Jesus. Maybe I should ask my doctor how much they normally charge for cleaning. I mean, me, it's free because my insurance, but when I didn't have insurance, oh, go lucky. Did you have to do x-rays? If it's a cleaning and if you haven't had an x-ray done within the past year, no? Oh, fuck, I don't know then. I don't know. I was like, maybe because you did x-rays too. Oh boy. Yeah, because I had to, for me, what was mine? Yeah, I didn't have dental insurance. It was like $75, $95. Wait, what? I've ordered from Temu. They're okay if you don't unsubscribe after they bug you. Oh, like, sorry. When you say bug, I mean, like, what do you mean they bug you? Like, they start wiretapping, start tracing you or something like that? Listen to your recordings? I'm not the best insurance, so my old employer insurance was better. Oh, yeah. You know, because sometimes, like, you don't have access to good insurance. You're just stuck with whatever the insurance your employer works with, right? Yeah. Yeah, because I have a friend who pays, I think, like $700 for insurance every month. And I'm like, what the fuck? But then again, their monthly payment is higher, but I think their benefits when they redeem it at the doctor's office is better or something like that. But like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to pay it that much. Like, that's so expensive. Ugh. They offered a plan in office for $75. It would cover 50% of the most services and 20% for others. Yeah, that's what I remember for but it's like an in-office dental insurance plan. Interesting. You haven't been a dentist in like 4 years. Teeth are fine as far as I know. For me, it's just like the deep cleaning because sometimes there are like pieces of plaque that might build up. Like I'll script it myself, but sometimes there are places where I can't reach or I can't see. Really? They send you a lot of messages. They send you like 100 notifications. Don't buy the mini iron. Okay. I will not. I mean, I don't know. Temu, when I see Temu and Alibaba, I'm like, nah, I'm good. All right, y'all. I hope you guys have a good one. And I'm going to go eat. I'm hungry. It was nice hanging out with you guys. It was good chatting with you guys. Tomorrow's schedule, I don't know. I'm going to see who's going to testify tomorrow, and then we'll figure out what we're doing then. I can't reach the back of my teeth with their big as fuck hands. Yeah. Thanks for the stream today. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. Hope you guys have a good one. I'm going to go play some pickleball today. And, I'm going to post a video today. Rebecca Grossman. Let me know what you guys think about Rebecca Grossman. I did a true crime story time about Rebecca Grossman. She was finally sentenced this week. Because her sentencing was wild, too. In my opinion. I don't know. I think it was pretty wild. But I'm going to make that video go live in a few. But